Chapter 2176. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. They wanted to know if Lin Xian could withstand it. Lin Xian focused his gaze and his eyes shone brightly. Then he used his second killer move. Chaotic Heaven Destroyer Sword Battle Song. A sword chi that was even more terrifying than the previous one slashed out and sliced the blood into two. The terrifying sword essence on it frantically destroyed the energy inside. Boom. At the same time, the entire sky was split apart. What? It was sliced apart. The third prince's pupils constricted when he saw this. He did not expect that his last killer move would be broken apart by his opponent. He could not believe it. In the next moment he was sent flying by the sword chi and vomited blood. Crack, crack, crack. More than half of the third prince's bones were broken and the golden box in his hand was also sliced apart. However, he did not teleport out. Lin Xian roared when he saw this. The sword soul in his body circulated crazily and a dragon-shaped sword chi was slashed out. When the sword slashed out, a loud dragon's roar could be heard and countless lightning bolts seemed to fall from the sky. "No, you can't kill me," the third prince roared crazily. This sword was even more terrifying than the previous one. He did not expect his opponent to be so powerful. He could not withstand it at all. He wanted to escape but he could not do so. In the next moment he was drowned by the sword light. "No." Many mighty figures exclaimed when they saw this. Their faces were ashen and filled with despair. They could feel that this sword was too terrifying. Even if the third prince was not injured, he would not be able to withstand it. Now that the third prince was seriously injured, he would not be able to withstand it. If the third prince was eliminated, then all of them would be eliminated. In that case, they would not be able to receive the baptism of the imperial dragon bloodline. In front of them, the violent energy continued to flood the area. The surrounding people could not see it clearly. However, everyone's eyes were extremely serious, whether it was the third prince or the eighth prince. Buzz buzz buzz. However, at this moment, all the mighty figures on the third prince's side emitted light. A terrifying spatial energy quickly formed on their bodies. What is this? These people's expressions changed, but the eighth prince was ecstatic. We won, we won. The Nether King, Daoist Long, and the others gasped when they heard this. Their eyes shone brightly. They were too excited. This meant that the third prince had been eliminated, and the remaining powerhouses would also be teleported out. Sure enough, in the next moment, these powerful beings were enveloped by a mysterious force. They tore through the void and disappeared. In front of him, the energy vortex also gradually disappeared before dispersing. The void in front of him quickly healed, and the third prince was nowhere to be seen. Seeing this, the eighth prince cheered. Inside the Grand Imperial Hall, the royal elders were all extremely shocked. They never thought that the third prince would actually lose. How could this be? The elders who supported the third prince all had ugly expressions on their faces as they gnashed their teeth. Those who supported the eighth prince were very excited. Inside the imperial palace there was another hall. There was a huge formation there. It was very mysterious. The array suddenly flickered and then a figure appeared. This person was the third prince. As soon as he appeared, he roared furiously at the sky as if he had gone mad. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! The third prince gritted his teeth. His eyes were bloodshot, and the murderous aura on his body pierced through the void. Lin Xian, how dare you eliminate me? I will definitely kill you. I will tear you into pieces. The third prince roared crazily. However, no matter how much he roared, he could not change the fact that he had been eliminated. The news of the third prince's appearance swept out like a gust of wind. When the other princes heard about it, they were all extremely shocked and could not believe it. To be honest, if it were the second prince, the sixth prince, or the seventh prince who had been eliminated, they would not be shocked. They would not be too shocked. After all, these princes were ordinary and would be eliminated sooner or later. However, the first to be eliminated was the third prince. The third prince was one of the three most powerful princes. His strength was extremely terrifying. He was the most popular prince in the crown prince competition. There was a high chance that he would become the crown prince. However, such a person had been eliminated. How could they not be shocked? When they found out that it was the eighth prince who eliminated the third prince, they all fell silent. Because the eighth prince was also one of the three most powerful princes. Now that he had defeated the third prince, it could be said that he was extremely powerful. Perhaps only the first prince could fight against him. After the first prince received the news, his face turned gloomy and he snorted coldly. This eighth prince was able to defeat the third prince. That really surprised me. However, he is still far from being able to deal with me. The first prince should not let his guard down. I feel that the 8th prince being able to defeat the 3rd prince must have something to do with that Lin Xian. After all, he had just obtained a rare treasure. Perhaps it was the rare treasure that played a role. Yes, that's right. I think so too. After the 1st prince said that, the surrounding powerful figures nodded their heads. The 1st prince's eyes flickered. Then he said, "Where is the Golden Lion King? Let him come back. We will meet him." Lin Xian had already met up with the 8th prince. It would be dangerous for him to go alone. Moreover, now that he calculated the time, it was almost time for the final battle. Let's eliminate the other princes first. Next, the 1st prince began to take action. He did not specifically look for the 8th prince. Instead, he pushed his way through. He eliminated all the princes that he encountered along the way. The 8th prince had the same plan. He also pushed his way through. Soon, the weaker princes were eliminated. In the end, only the 1st prince, the 8th prince, and the stronger 4th prince, the 9th prince, and the 15th prince were left. Among them, the 9th prince and the 15th prince joined forces to fight against the 1st prince. On the other side, the 8th prince and the 4th prince met. 9th prince, 15th prince, you two should admit defeat. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. If you want us to admit defeat? Sure, show us your true strength and defeat us. Otherwise, it's impossible for us to surrender with just a few words. The 9th prince snorted coldly. The 15th prince also had a solemn expression. The powerful figures beside them all looked as if they were facing a great enemy. You're courting death. Since you want to fight me, I won't hold back. The 1st prince sneered. Then a huge dragon appeared on his body. Go kill them. The 1st prince shouted coldly. The powerful figures beside him also started to move. At the same time, a golden figure descended from the sky. He was like a god of war, suppressing the surroundings. Not good, it's the Golden Lion King. Stop him quickly. The 9th prince and the 15th prince roared. They knew how terrifying the Golden Lion King was. They could not let him get close. Chapter 2177. Boom. A fierce battle broke out. However, the 1st prince's side was too strong. Together with the Golden Lion King, the 9th prince and the 15th prince were eliminated in the end. 8th brother, you're the only one left. The 1st prince sneered. He waved his hand and led his men out again. On the other side, the 4th prince and the 8th prince met and fought fiercely. Among them, Jianghu stood out. He looked at Lin Xian and did not speak. However, the sword intent on his body was getting more and more terrifying. The aura he emitted was far stronger than before. Obviously, during this period of time, Sword 13 had obtained an enormous fortuitous encounter and improved his strength. Lin Xian naturally knew what Jianghu meant. Hence, he stepped out and sword chi surged on his body. Then he used the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword and fought with Jianghu. What a terrifying sword technique. Jianghu and Lin Xian exchanged more than 10 moves and were defeated. His arms were trembling slightly because his opponent's sword technique was too terrifying. He did not use this sword technique in the first stage. Could it be that he obtained it in some ruins? Jianghu was shocked. Jianghu was defeated and soon the 4th prince was defeated as well. It couldn't be helped. Although the 4th prince was powerful, he was still lacking when compared to the 3rd prince. Since the 3rd prince was eliminated, the 4th prince would not be able to hold on for long. Hence, the 4th prince and the kings around him were all teleported out. In the royal palace, the 4th prince and the others appeared. They sighed as they knew that they had no chance to compete for the position of crown prince. Let's go. The 4th prince tidied his clothes and said, let's go and see if it's the 1st prince or the 8th prince who wins this time. Although he was defeated, the 4th prince was not too depressed. Because he knew from the beginning that his chances of winning the position of crown prince were less than 10%. Hence, in the second stage he led his men to search for all kinds of ruins and obtain the treasures to increase his strength. He had done his best to do what he should do. Hence, there was no need to be disappointed now. Right now he wanted to go and watch the final battle. Not only him, all the princes went to the Grand Imperial Palace. Those powerful beings also followed one after another. They were still in the camp of their respective princes, so they naturally had the opportunity to watch the final battle. In an instant, the Grand Imperial Hall became extremely lively. Everyone was discussing who the final victor was. Was there even a need to think? It had to be the 1st prince. With the strength of the Crown Prince's lineup, as well as the Golden Lion King, who could be the Crown Prince's opponent? No matter how strong the 8th prince was, it was impossible for him to compete with the eldest prince. That's right, the final victor would definitely be the 1st prince. Many old men spoke bold words. It was obvious that they supported the 1st prince. Hearing this, the corners of the Empress's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a smile. However, some people didn't think so. Not necessarily, the 8th prince was not to be underestimated. Moreover, he still had Lin Xian. That kid had obtained a lot of rare treasures. I'm sure you've all seen the previous battle. Lin Xian's battle prowess is incomparably terrifying. He's definitely at the top. There would definitely be no problem for him to compete with the Golden Lion King. Yes, there would be no problem for him to compete with the Golden Lion King. However, do you think that the 8th prince would be able to compete with the 1st prince? Someone sneered. In short, everyone was discussing intensely. However, at this moment someone exclaimed, "Look, they've met." Hearing this, everyone shut up. They all opened their eyes wide and looked at the screen. They discovered that the 1st prince and the 8th prince had indeed met. The two sides faced each other in the air, and the void directly shattered. Seeing this scene, everyone took a deep breath. Their expressions were incomparably solemn. The blood in their bodies was about to boil because this was the final battle. The 8th prince and the 1st prince had met. The 8th prince was incomparably solemn. The King Almighties behind him also looked as if they were facing a great enemy. After all, the 1st prince was the strongest prince. He had many trump cards in his hands and he also had the Golden Lion King. It could be said that his strength was incomparably terrifying. Old 8, I didn't expect that the one who would fight with me in the end would be you. The 1st prince looked over and said coldly. However, against me you have no chance of winning. If you don't want to lose too much, I advise you to obediently take your people and admit defeat. Otherwise, when I make my move, you won't have a good ending. The 8th prince snorted coldly. It wasn't certain who would win or lose. Since they had already reached the final step, how could he admit defeat at this moment? You're courting death. Seeing that the 8th prince still wanted to resist, the 1st prince sneered. The King Almighties behind him also emitted a terrifying aura. At the same time in the sky, a golden figure descended. Boom. A terrifying aura crushed down in all directions. The Golden Lion King. Seeing this golden figure, the 8th prince sucked in a breath of cold air. The moment the Golden Lion King descended, he didn't care about anyone else. His eyes were fixed on Lin Xian. Kid, hand over the rare treasure. Otherwise die. Lin Xian snorted coldly and took a step forward. His body emitted a biting cold aura. You want the rare treasure in my hands? Sure, but you have to defeat me. The rare treasure is yours. You're courting death. The Golden Lion King's face sank. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. Then a strange rune appeared between his eyebrows. His bloodline power immediately surged. That rune was extremely dazzling and mysterious. It made people feel dizzy just by looking at it. The blood and chi in the Golden Lion King's body was like a furnace, emitting a terrifying light. Rays of rainbow light shot into the sky, stirring up the wind and clouds. Boom. A terrifying aura erupted, causing everyone's expression to change. Especially the 8th prince's side. Everyone looked as if they were facing a great enemy. Their expressions were extremely solemn. They couldn't help it. The aura emitted by the Golden Lion King was too terrifying. It made them feel suffocated. Was this the bloodline power of the war tribe? It was too terrifying. That's right. He was only a 6-star king, but he already had the combat strength of a peak almighty. If he entered the realm of almighty, wouldn't he be heaven-defying? Everyone was shocked. After the Golden Lion King used his bloodline power, the aura on his body became extremely sharp. His gaze was like a golden divine sword, piercing through the void. At this moment, it was as if he wasn't a human. Instead, he was a high and mighty war god looking down on the common people. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Since you want to fight, I'll grant you your wish. As his voice fell, a terrifying light surged from his body. The great dragon sword soul in his body erupted. A majestic sword aura shot into the sky. Buzz. Chapter 2178. Buzz. With a slash, the primal Chaos Heaven Destroyer sword was unleashed. Mixed with the power of the great dragon sword soul, it was extremely terrifying. Boom. The Golden Lion King clenched his fist, and the bloodline power in his body surged crazily. Then he punched out. When the two collided, shocking energy exploded, and the surrounding space quickly collapsed. An extremely powerful energy storm formed between the two of them. Not good. Retreat. When the surrounding King Almighty saw this scene, their expressions changed. They retreated crazily and instantly retreated a few thousand miles. Even the 1st prince and the 8th prince quickly retreated. Soon the space where they were originally standing turned into countless cracks and collapsed. Not only that, the cracks were still spreading. Soon it spread from 1,000 miles to 10,000 miles. The entire space within 10,000 miles was completely shattered. The violent energy swallowed Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King. It was too terrifying. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them with fear and trepidation. Even the elders in the Grand Imperial Hall felt their scalps go numb. This was just a casual attack from the two young men, and it caused such a terrifying scene. If the two of them attacked with their full strength, how terrifying would it be? They didn't dare to imagine. The princes were also silent. Especially the third prince, he was so angry that he was gnashing his teeth. His killing intent towards Lin Xian could be said to be monstrous. However, now that he saw how powerful Lin Xian was, and how he could actually fight the Golden Lion King head-on, he was even more furious. The first prince's expression was also solemn and somewhat cold. He didn't expect that Lin Xian could actually fight the Golden Lion King. It was really beyond his expectations. However, in the next moment he sneered. He didn't have the Golden Lion King, but the strength of his side was still very strong. However, without Lin Xian, the 8th prince's strength would probably be greatly reduced. Therefore, in the next moment, his gaze was like a knife as he stared at the 8th prince. "Old 8, follow me to the other side for a decisive battle." The 8th prince snorted and flew away with Daoist Long and the other kings. After flying for 30,000 miles, they stopped. There was no other way. If they wanted to fight, they couldn't rely on Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King. Otherwise they would be affected. Let the two young geniuses fight. The first prince also followed behind and stopped. He sneered. "Old 8, let me see if you've made any progress during this period of time." "You will see," the 8th prince said. A dragon-shaped phantom appeared on his body. Then with a cold shout he attacked. Boom, boom. Terrifying energy erupted as the 8th prince and the 3rd prince finally clashed. Everyone in the Grand Imperial Hall was astonished when they saw the dazzling lights dancing on the screen and Wu Ji's divine ability. However, they actually wanted to see the battle between the Golden Lion King and Xian. But now, the 1st prince and the 8th prince were more than 30,000 miles away from Lin Xian and the others. They could only wait patiently. However, at this moment, a very powerful royal elder said in a deep voice. Perhaps the key to this battle was to see who would win between Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Could it be that the two young geniuses were already able to affect the entire battle? However, after thinking about it, it was indeed so. Thinking of this, they couldn't help but become excited. On the other side, Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King clashed, causing the heavens and earth to shatter. Then the two of them stopped again and stood on opposite sides. The Golden Lion King's body shone like a god of war. He retracted his fist with a cold expression. "Kid, hand over the Heavenly Emperor's treasure obediently. Otherwise your end will be miserable. I've said it before. If you defeat me, the treasure will be yours." Lin Xian replied in a deep voice. "All right, I'll let you see the ultimate skill of my war tribe today." As soon as he finished speaking, the aura on his body became violent again. He was like an immemorial beast. He recovered quickly. Nirvana Scorching Sun Fist. The Golden Lion King waved his hands and the power of his bloodline spread out. A violent aura swept through heaven and earth. Every fist was incomparably terrifying. It was like a sun blooming in the sky. This fist technique of mine is a set of ultimate skills of the war tribe. Under the power of my bloodline, it's incomparably terrifying. No one below the realm of supreme experts can resist it. You are no exception. The Golden Lion King transformed into a ball of fiery red sun as it charged towards Lin Xian at high speed. "Is that so? What war tribe? It's just a legend. I was able to injure you last time. This time I can do the same." Lin Xian pulled out the 9 nether demon sword. His body released a terrifying killing intent. In the next moment he used the primal Chaos Heaven Destroyer sword and faced the attack. Boom. Soon the two of them met in the air. The golden fist and the sharp sword technique collided once again. The sky fell and the earth cracked. Nothing could withstand this power. Lin Xian also frowned because he felt that the other party's power had become stronger. It was even more violent than before. It was as if thousands of mountains were pressing down on his sword, making his demon sword incomparably heavy. "Do you feel it? This is my true power. Do you think you can contend against it?" The Golden Lion King's handsome face revealed a trace of malevolence. Then he attacked again. Burning heaven and earth. The golden fist burned fiercely and turned into 2 golden suns. It attacked again and forced Lin Xian to retreat. The Golden Lion King walked over with large strides, creating countless cracks in the void. With every step, the aura on his body condensed. The power of his bloodline turned into strange demonic runes that appeared on his body. In the dark, there seemed to be an incomparably terrifying battle intent that was awakening and erupting. Last time you injured me because I was careless. This time I will use all of my bloodline power. I will let you know how terrifying the war tribe is. It's not something you can imagine. The golden rune between the Golden Lion King's eyebrows flickered. The bloodline power in his body quickly circulated. His fist turned into thousands of suns, crushing the void and enveloping Lin Xian. Each of the suns was incomparably terrifying. They burned fiercely and could instantly kill elite supreme experts. Perhaps even a peak supreme expert wouldn't be able to withstand it. Lin Xian's expression was solemn. He didn't expect this Golden Lion King to be more terrifying and powerful than he imagined. As expected of the legendary genius of the war tribe. It was absolutely heaven-defying. This was the most terrifying enemy he had encountered so far. In the next moment he would use the primal Chaos Heaven Destroyer sword. A terrifying sword light would surge out and slash apart the suns one after another. However, when the suns exploded, the energy formed would cause a terrifying impact to him. Fortunately, his physique had been refined by the immemorial demonic blood and was far stronger than before. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Kid, I didn't expect you to be stronger than before. Interesting indeed. Chapter 2179. The Golden Lion King was surprised to see that Lin Xian was able to block the golden suns in the sky. He realized that Lin Xian's strength was indeed stronger than the last time they met. But so what? He had fully activated his bloodline power. He could even kill a god. Limitless heaven and earth. The Golden Lion King's fist technique became extremely berserk again. Terrifying golden fists appeared in the air. Then they formed a golden ocean that rolled over. The void collapsed in an instant. There was nothing that could withstand it at all. At this moment, Lin Xian felt a great sense of danger. Even the King Almighties who were fighting tens of thousands of miles away trembled as fear rose in their hearts. They subconsciously turned their heads and looked at the sky tens of thousands of miles away. Their golden light flickered. It was impossible to see clearly. However, the aura it emitted seemed to be able to devour heaven and earth. Lin Xian also felt threatened. He didn't dare to be careless. He covered his body with the black battle armor and summoned the Ice Guardian. Then Lin Xian used the primal Chaos Heaven Destroyer sword and attacked. Demon Seal. Terrifying sword chi was unleashed. It seemed to be able to seal the heaven and earth. Therefore, the golden waves that the Golden Lion King unleashed gradually dimmed under the influence of Demon Seal. It seemed like it would disappear at any time. What was going on? Why did the golden light in the distance suddenly dim? The kings 30,000 miles away were extremely confused. The Golden Lion King also frowned. He could feel a mysterious power weakening his strength. Boom. In the next moment, the golden light in the sky completely disappeared. It was completely sealed. What was this? The Golden Lion King frowned. A trace of coldness appeared in his eyes. The burning sky-scorching sun fist was his war tribe's ultimate skill. It was extremely violent and terrifying. No one could resist it, let alone seal it. But now, the berserk power he had unleashed had inexplicably disappeared. He was unable to believe it. However, before he could react, Lin Xian quickly attacked again. Seeing this scene, the Golden Lion King's face darkened. Not only did he fail to injure Lin Xian, but his attack was also destroyed. This made him furious. One must know that he was the Golden Lion King, a genius of the war tribe. He was unparalleled. He had never placed anyone in his eyes. But now, Lin Xian continuously provoked him and even successfully suppressed him. This made him so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Damn brat, go to hell. The Golden Lion King roared. The golden light in his body suddenly erupted and spread out in all directions. At the same time, two balls of golden flames appeared on his fists. Instantly, the spiritual chi within a radius of 10,000 miles surged towards him and entered the two balls of flames in his hands. The two balls of flames became even more resplendent, as if they were the flames of the gods. Boom. Boom. The Golden Lion King to kill the Lion King soon after. The Golden Lion King formed a seal with both of its hands. The two golden flames began to fuse together. Suddenly, an even more terrifying aura erupted. Not only that, but the golden flame also began to transform into a golden divine tree that was burning fiercely. Above the golden birth god tree, clusters of golden phantoms appeared like suns. Sun gods too. With a wave of his palm, the sky was filled with flames. It was as if a real sun had descended to the mortal world. That terrifying aura directly shattered the mountain peak below. Large swathes of the forest burned and turned into ashes. In the Golden Lion King's hands, the golden flames turned into 9 golden crows. They spread their wings and flew towards Lin Xian. Then they grew bigger with the wind and turned into demonic beasts that were hundreds of feet long. They were incomparably terrifying. Lin Xian roared. The dragon sword domain quickly appeared on his body and turned into 2 true dragons that circled around his hands. In the next moment he grabbed the Golden Lion King and pulled. Ka. The Golden Lion King tore the Golden Lion King into 2 like a piece of cloth. A huge black crack flew out from Lin Xian's fingertip and spread forward. The sky seemed to have really been split open. The violent spatial energy spread out in all directions. It even charged towards the Golden Lion King. This was an extremely terrifying method. It was equivalent to Lin Xian also withstanding the terrifying spatial energy. However, countless sword chi rose from his body and destroyed the power of space. However, the 9 golden crows at the front were fiercely attacked. The first 3 golden crows were instantly torn apart by the spatial energy. They turned into countless flames and fell into the dark void. However, this was an absolute art after all. In addition to the power of the Golden Lion King's bloodline, it was even more terrifying and burned fiercely. The 6 golden crows at the back directly shattered the Golden Lion King and attacked again, contending with the spatial crack. In the end, they all disappeared into the Golden Lion King. Spatial energy? The Golden Lion King frowned. He didn't expect the other party to have grasped this kind of spatial energy. This kind of spatial energy was very difficult to grasp. As far as he knew, only the Gu family of the East had grasped it. He didn't expect the other party to have it. However, in the next moment, the corner of his mouth rose into a cold smile. Brat, don't think that you can threaten me just because you have grasped spatial energy. You are too naive. I will let you know the true power of my war tribe. The Golden Lion King's mouth rose into a sinister smile. The golden light in his eyes bloomed even more. The golden rune between his eyebrows became even more resplendent. In the next moment he stretched out his hands and pulled. Crack, crack, crack. Instantly the space in front of him was torn apart. A huge black crack also spread out. That scene was exactly the same as Lin Xian's. It was as if it was a copy. In the sky, 2 incomparably dark spatial cracks were spread out. Everyone within 100,000 miles could see it. At this moment, not to mention the 8th prince, the 1st prince, and the others, even the people in the Grand Imperial Hall saw it through the screen. They were extremely frightened. What kind of ability did the 2 of them use? How could they tear apart such a terrifying space? Heavens, this can't be spatial energy, right? Otherwise, ordinary energy wouldn't be able to tear apart such a terrifying space. That's right. Only an invincible king could create such a spatial crack. Other than that, other than spatial energy, I can't think of anything else. The 2 of them actually know how to use spatial energy. How is this possible? Everyone was stunned. They couldn't understand it at all. Lin Xian also frowned. He looked at the other party's action and the scene they created. His brows immediately furrowed. What's going on? Why does it feel so familiar? Lin Xian coldly snorted. He formed a seal with his hands and the Hell's Ice Lotus flew out from his hands. It quickly rushed forward. Useless brat. The Golden Lion King's lips curled into a sinister smile. The power of his bloodline was released even more. He also formed a seal. After that, a golden lotus quickly flew out and enlarged. It was like a golden mountain rotating in the empty palace. Chapter 2180. A golden lotus quickly flew out and enlarged. It was like a golden mountain as it rotated in the empty palace. The aura it emitted was incomparably terrifying. Boom, boom, boom. The 2 lotuses collided in the air and formed a terrifying storm. Then they were extinguished together. It was the same attack again. Lin Xian's frown deepened. In the next moment, the demon-slaying sword formation appeared under his feet. An immemorial shadow soared into the sky. The black shadow carried a violent power as it charged toward the Golden Lion King. The Golden Lion King sneered in disdain. At this moment he was like a god of war that controlled the world. Countless golden patterns spread under his feet and turned into golden flames. They condensed into a golden illusory shadow. It was like an immemorial demon god that emitted a desolate aura. It really looked like a golden immemorial demon beast had awakened. Boom, boom. Another shocking collision occurred. Then the 2 completely disappeared in the void. Lin Xian, on the other hand, was completely stunned. He was too familiar with this method. No matter what the other party used, he could simulate it. This was the divine ability of his great dragon sword soul. How did the other party know how to use it? Lin Xian was simply too astonished. In fact, it could even be said that he was extremely shocked. He did not expect the Golden Lion King's move to be so similar to his. But how was this possible? He could do it because he had the great dragon sword soul. It could simulate everything. How did the other party do it? Why was it able to simulate the move he used? Could it be that the other party also had the same divine ability or treasure? Lin Xian did not know, but he was extremely shocked. Ruffian Dragon He-Tu, do you know the origin of the war tribe? Lin Xian asked through voice transmission. However, Ruffian Dragon and He-Tu shook their heads. The war tribe was prosperous about 100,000 years ago. However, it gradually declined. 10,000 years ago it completely disappeared. When I was there, the war tribe had already disappeared. And Hong said. He-Tu also said that when I was there, the war tribe was very low-key. Therefore I could not find anything. Hearing this, Lin Xian's frown deepened. Even He-Tu and the dark red divine dragon did not know what happened 100,000 years ago. How could he know? However, he guessed that the war race was definitely not that simple. Seeing Lin Xian's shocked expression and frowning appearance, the Golden Lion King smiled. How is it, brat? Are you very shocked? It's no wonder you're surprised. I can use all the martial skills and divine abilities you use. Therefore, in front of me you have no chance of winning. A confident smile appeared on the Golden Lion King's face. He looked at Lin Xian with pity in his eyes. I admit that you can be considered a genius, surpassing most people. But unfortunately you met me. The war race is not something you can imagine. The war clan's foundation also far surpasses your understanding. Therefore, they had to obediently hand over the heavenly treasure. I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, you will experience what it means to be in despair, to live a life worse than death. Hearing the Golden Lion King's words, Lin Xian regained his senses and snorted. Although he didn't know what kind of method the Golden Lion King used to be able to imitate his ultimate move and divine ability, he didn't know. However, the other party actually dared to compete with him in this aspect. That was truly courting death. The great dragon sword soul wasn't someone to be trifled with. As long as Lin Xian used his full strength, it would definitely be terrifying. Therefore, the other party dared to compete with him. That was truly courting death. This is your method? The divine ability of your war race? In my opinion, it's just SOSO. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Just SOSO? Brat, don't boast. I can perform all of the divine abilities you know. Moreover, under the power of my bloodline, they're definitely stronger than yours. What do you have to win against me? Even stronger than mine? You're too confident, too naive. You can try and see if it's stronger than mine. Lin Xian snorted in disdain. He would let the other party know what was called the Great Dragon Sword Soul, unparalleled in the world. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. The Golden Lion King's face sank. Since the other party didn't know the difference between life and death, there was no need for him to hold back. On the other side, Lin Xian's palms formed seals again. The black hellfire and the blue sea god's ice quickly merged in front of him. However, this time, it wasn't a simple fusion. Lin Xian injected the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul into it. The Hell's Ice Lotus was formed. On the surface of the lotus, dragon patterns appeared, emitting a terrifying aura. This power was several times stronger than before. Lin Xian waved his arm, and the Hell's Ice Lotus flew out. It's useless. I've already learned this move. You're not my opponent at all. Seeing Lin Xian use the Hell's Ice Lotus, the Golden Lion King sneered in disdain. He quickly formed seals with his palms, and the power of his bloodline surged. A golden lotus rose into the air and flew out quickly. Boom. In the next moment, the two collided in the air, and a terrifying explosion of energy swept out in all directions. Although it's just an imitation, my bloodline power is definitely far stronger than yours. This time you can't block it at all. The Golden Lion King stood at the back and his eyes were cold. However, in the next moment he was stunned, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Damn it, how is this possible? He was extremely shocked because he could feel that the golden lotus he formed was quickly shattering into pieces. And the other party's Hell's Ice Lotus was quickly approaching with a terrifying aura. Boom. In an instant it arrived in front of him. How is this possible? He was extremely shocked and didn't dare to believe it. How did the other party's power increase again? In fact, it even surpassed the power of his bloodline. What's going on? He couldn't understand, but he didn't have time to think about it. The Hell's Ice Lotus in front of him was already enveloping him. If this energy exploded, it would definitely threaten his life. Therefore, in the next moment, the Golden Lion King roared, and his speed exploded to the limit. He turned into a stream of light and disappeared in an instant. At the same time, he waved his fists and used the fearless lion seal. The terrifying seal was injected with the power of his bloodline. It was as if a real demon king had awakened. In an instant, he collided with the Hell's Ice Lotus in front of him. Only then did he block the Hell's Ice Lotus. However, he was still affected by the energy and kept retreating. A lot of the golden flames on his body were extinguished. Damn it, what's going on? His divine ability was even stronger than before. The Golden Lion King retreated to the back, and his expression was incomparably cold. He had tested the other party's power before, and it was the same as when he didn't use the power of his bloodline. Now that he used the power of his bloodline, his combat power had increased by several times. It was definitely not a problem to kill the other party. Even if he used the same move, he could still win against the other party. But now, the situation was beyond his expectations. Both parties used the same move, but his move was broken. In other words, the other party's divine ability was more powerful than his. Chapter 2181. He was a genius of the war race and possessed a terrifying bloodline power. He was born for battle. His battle prowess had reached the pinnacle among the younger generation. How could the other party be stronger than him? He did not believe it. What? Are you surprised? Is it out of your expectations? On the other side, Lin Xian stepped in the air and walked over. He revealed a trace of ridicule. Who do you think you are to be able to control everything? Do you think the war race is really as powerful as the legends say? In my opinion, it's just SOSO. At least you can't control me. Damn it, I don't believe it. The Golden Lion King roared. Brat, I don't know what secret technique you used to stimulate your body's potential. That's why your battle prowess has increased. But thinking about it, this secret technique can't last for too long. It can't be compared to my bloodline power. Ignorant. The war race was strong but not the strongest. Otherwise they wouldn't have declined. Lin Xian's expression was cold. Do you think that your war race is at its peak? You're courting death. My war race just doesn't want to come out. Now, I'll let you know how powerful I am. The Golden Lion King was really angry. The other party actually dared to look down on him and look down on the war race? This was something that the arrogant him couldn't tolerate. Therefore, in the next moment, he let out a furious roar, and the golden flames on his body danced. In an instant, he turned into a huge golden giant and roared at the sky. Then, a golden flame sword appeared in the golden giant's hand. It turned into a golden dragon and roared in the air. Brat, go to hell. The Golden Lion King roared and swung his arm down. The golden flame sword also slashed down. This move was Lin Xian's ultimate skill, Fire God's Roar. Now that it was used by the Golden Lion King, its power was terrifying. Let me show you what the real Fire God's Roar is. Lin Xian coldly snorted. The hellfire on his body quickly spread. Then, a black giant was quickly formed. Roar. The black giant roared toward the sky and let out a dragon's roar. The surrounding mountain peaks instantly shattered. A terrifying black hole appeared in the sky. Thunder and lightning fell. This energy fluctuation was sensed by everyone within a radius of 100,000 kilometers. Instantly, the people on the 8th prince's and the 1st prince's side raised their heads in astonishment. In the next moment, their pupils shrank. That was because they saw two towering giants tens of thousands of miles away. They stood there as if they could reach the heavens. One was like a god of war in gold, while the other was like a demon king in darkness. Even though they were tens of thousands of miles away, they could still feel the terrifying aura. Some of the weaker ones even began to tremble uncontrollably. This was too shocking. They were all powerful geniuses. Yet they were all trembling under such pressure. What kind of strength was this? They couldn't believe it. The people in the Grand Imperial Hall saw the two giant figures standing in the distance through the light screen. Then they all sucked in a cold breath. When they saw the black giant let out a furious roar and shatter the sky, they were even more astonished. This black giant was so strong. This was Lin Xian's giant, one of his ultimate moves. He had seen it before. Many people were discussing this matter. As for the elders who supported the first prince, their faces were gloomy. What was going on? It was obvious that the golden giant's aura was suppressed. But how was this possible? Could it be that the Golden Lion King couldn't defeat the other party? Once this thought came out, they were all stunned. How was this possible? The Golden Lion King, the genius of the war tribe, was born for battle. How could there be someone he couldn't defeat? Unless it was a supreme expert, They didn't dare to believe that there was someone who could suppress the Golden Lion King. The Golden Lion King's face was gloomy. He felt the aura of a dragon from the other party and was instantly shocked. What was going on? Why was there the aura of a dragon? Who was the other party? Could it be someone from the royal family? The dragon's roar, he immediately thought of the royal family. Only the royal family had the aura of a dragon and could let out a dragon's roar. However, Lin Xian wasn't from the royal family. Then why? Could it be because of his cultivation technique? The Golden Lion King's face was gloomy. He didn't expect the other party's cultivation technique to be related to dragons. So what? Even if it was related, it wasn't a real dragon. I don't believe that you can suppress me. The Golden Lion King was enraged. There was a hint of madness in his cold eyes. In the next moment, the rune on his forehead flickered even more. The power of his bloodline was unleashed to the extreme. Mysterious runes revolved around him like divine runes. They were incomparably mysterious. Even the surroundings were filled with an ancient voice. His voice was very low and it shook people's souls. But when this scene appeared, the golden flames on the surface of his body suddenly blossomed. It was like a huge sun, extremely dazzling. The Golden Lion King's aura rose again. As expected. As expected of the genius of the war tribe. Seeing this scene, everyone started to discuss. The first prince heaved a sigh of relief. That's right. How could the Golden Lion King be suppressed? That brat dared to fight with the Golden Lion King. He would definitely be killed. It could even increase his strength. It was indeed powerful. Lin Xian was also shocked. He had to admit that the Golden Lion King was indeed a difficult opponent. Its strength was incomparably terrifying. However, it was a pity that it met him. In the next moment, Lin Xian directly activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul. Another loud dragon roar rang out, shattering the clouds in the surroundings. In the next moment, the black giant clenched his fists. Countless black flames danced and turned into a huge flaming sword. However, the huge flaming sword here was too shocking. It wasn't a sword at all. It was a dragon. A huge black flaming dragon was held in the hands of the black giant. The dragon's head roared towards the sky. It was extremely sinister. On it, even the dragon runes could be seen clearly. But the sword slashed down, causing the heavens to collapse and the earth to split. The terrifying black dragon sword was incomparably terrifying. It directly slashed forward, wanting to split the Golden Lion King into pieces. Die for me. On the other side, the Golden Lion King also roared. He controlled the golden giant and similarly waved the huge flaming sword. In the next moment, the two giants attacked at the same time. Two terrifying huge swords clashed in the air. Boom, boom, boom. This attack was extremely terrifying. It really had the aura of destruction. An extremely terrifying sword wave spread out in all directions with the two giants as the center. Everywhere it passed, mountains, forests, and rivers collapsed. Countless cracks appeared on the ground, extending for tens of thousands of miles. But tens of thousands of miles away, the eighth prince, the first prince, and the others who were fighting felt a terrifying surge of energy, causing them to have no choice but to retreat. At this moment, they simply stopped fighting and retreated to the distance to observe the situation. Chapter 2182. The experts and elders in the Grand Imperial Hall widened their eyes as they stared at the screen. Clang. Under everyone's nervous gazes, an earth-shattering sound could be heard. The huge golden flaming sword was split in half. Whoosh. The broken half fell to the ground and immediately turned into a sea of golden flames that spread in all directions. The raging flames burned fiercely, but the golden giant roared in anger. In the next moment, it was split in half by the black dragon sword. What? It was split in half. How was this possible? Everyone went crazy. On the first prince's side, the elite experts and elders all widened their eyes in disbelief. The Golden Lion King's golden giant was split in half. The Golden Lion King's pupils shrank in disbelief. His opponent actually broke through his attack. How was this possible? How could his opponent be stronger than him? He couldn't believe it. He roared crazily and wanted to block it. However, he realized that the huge black dragon sword was already slashing down rapidly. It would soon engulf him. Get lost. The Golden Lion King unleashed a terrifying attack. A golden armor appeared on his body and covered his entire body, only revealing a pair of cold eyes. Boom. In the next moment, the long sword slashed down. It was earth-shattering. Mountains and rivers were shattered. A terrifying energy wave turned into a rolling light pillar that rushed into the 9 heavens. It was as if the world was about to be destroyed. The earth cracked and the void collapsed. The surrounding mountains were also cracked, forming huge rifts. Everyone's eyelids twitched as they stared into the distance. They wanted to know how the Golden Lion King was doing. When the black dragon sword shadow disappeared, everyone became nervous. They didn't know how the Golden Lion King was doing. "Damn brat, I'm going to kill you." However, at this moment, a cold voice came from the remnant energy. This voice was filled with killing intent and didn't contain any emotions. Hearing this voice, the first prince and the others heaved a sigh of relief. They knew that this was the Golden Lion King's voice. This meant that the Golden Lion King shouldn't have suffered much damage. Bang! In the next moment, the void was torn apart as the Golden Lion King stepped out. His long golden hair danced wildly in the wind, and his handsome face seemed to have been carved by a knife. However, there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, which was exceptionally eye-catching. Not only that, when they looked down, everyone was stunned. The exquisite golden battle armor on the Golden Lion King was now filled with cracks, as if it would shatter at any moment. Not only that, but the area in front of his body caved in. There was an obvious sword mark that slashed it open. This could no longer be considered a golden armor, because large amounts of blood had dyed it red. He was injured. The Golden Lion King was actually heavily injured. Everyone was extremely shocked, not daring to believe it. On the other hand, the Golden Lion King's expression was ice-cold. The rune between its eyebrows shone even brighter. Even though Zhang Xian's face was pale, the killing intent he exuded was far sharper than before. "Brat, since you dared to hurt me, I'll make you pay back tenfold." The Golden Lion King was truly enraged. He simply couldn't understand why his opponent's might was so much greater than his when they used the same martial skill. This was too illogical. One must know that the Golden Lion King was able to imitate other people's martial skills by combining it with the power of his bloodline. Furthermore, under the effect of his bloodline, the might he imitated would far surpass his opponent's. This kind of divine ability could not only defeat his opponent's hand, but it could also shatter his opponent's confidence and martial heart. But now, the divine ability that he was so proud of had actually failed. On the opposite side, Lin Xian sneered. "Why are you surprised? This is just an appetizer. Next I'll give you a surprise." "Damn it, could it be that this brat still has some trump card?" The Golden Lion King frowned. However, in the next moment he was stunned as if he had seen a ghost. Because he discovered that Lin Xian's palms were rapidly forming seals. A ferocious and terrifying aura was rapidly emitted from the imprint. "Damn it, how is this possible? How can he use it?" The Golden Lion King was truly stunned. "Damn it, I don't believe it." The Golden Lion King seemed to have received a huge blow, and he went crazy. "Damn it, how can he use the seal of the Fearless Lion? Impossible. This must be fake. This brat is trying to confuse me." The Golden Lion King roared, trying to stabilize his emotions. However, Lin Xian sneered. "Fake? Is that so? Then look at this." As he spoke, he waved his palm, and the seal of the Fearless Lion appeared. A golden lion appeared in the sky and roared towards the sky. It was extremely terrifying. "Damn it. Impossible. I don't believe it." The Golden Lion King had truly gone crazy. The other party was actually able to use his divine ability. This was too unexpected. This divine ability was his battle tribe's ultimate skill. No one else could use it. However, how could the other party use it? Damn it, could it be that this brat also knows how to imitate other people's divine ability? But how is this possible? The Golden Lion King was truly stunned. The reason why he could imitate other people's divine ability was because of his battle tribe's bloodline power. Without the bloodline power of the battle tribe, no one else could use it. This was definitely not the seal of the Fearless Lion. "Brat, do you think that just by imitating the shape of a lion, it's the seal of the Fearless Lion? You won't be able to use its power and essence." The Golden Lion King roared and quickly formed seals with his palm. He also used the seal of the Fearless Lion. In his opinion, Lin Xian must be trying to confuse and deceive him. That's why he used the seal of the Fearless Lion. He guessed that the other party's seal only had the shape of a lion. It didn't have the power and essence of the seal of the Fearless Lion. If that was the case, then it was nothing, because it couldn't threaten him at all. Therefore he also used the seal of the Fearless Lion and quickly used it. He wanted to shatter the other party's lion. In the sky, the two golden figures collided again and tore apart. However, very soon the Golden Lion King screamed again, because he realized that the seal of the Fearless Lion was broken by the other party. "Damn it! How is this possible?" Not only was the other party's form the same as his, the power was even stronger than his original version. How is this possible? How could the other party use their battle tribe's divine ability? Furthermore, the power was even stronger than his. The Golden Lion King was about to go crazy. Damn brat, how did you do it? Who exactly are you? The Golden Lion King gritted his teeth. How did you do it? Naturally, I did it too. Lin Xian sneered. Impossible, I don't believe it. The Golden Lion King roared crazily. I can only do this because I have the battle tribe's bloodline. Chapter 2183. So it was the bloodline of the war tribe. After Lin Xian heard this, he was enlightened. Now he finally found some clues. Damn it, you actually tricked me. The Golden Lion King roared. He didn't expect that the other party was still investigating the secret of his war tribe. This made him mad. Therefore, at the next moment he attacked again. It's useless. I know everything you know. Moreover, the power is stronger than yours. Therefore you are not my opponent at all. Lin Xian said coldly. These were the words that the Golden Lion King had said to him before. However, he was now returning them back to them. Damn it. I'm going to kill you. The Golden Lion King was mad. This was a slap to his face. He had to kill the other party in order to vent the hatred in his heart. What's wrong? Are you angry? Lin Xian sneered. Now have a taste of my burning sky-scorching sun fist. Boom. Terrifying black flames rose from Lin Xian's fists. Then they danced quickly. Numerous black suns danced in the air, releasing terrifying heat. What he was using now was the ultimate skill that the Golden Lion King used before, the burning sky-scorching sun fist. It was also a terrifying ability of the war tribe. At this moment when it was used, it really had the aura of destruction. Damn it. Seeing the other party using his war tribe's ultimate skill again, the Golden Lion King was so angry that he vomited blood. Everything was out of his control. Originally, he thought that he could use his bloodline power to simulate Lin Xian's ultimate skill and kill the other party. This way he could use the most humiliating method to kill the other party. But now he realized that not only did he not succeed, but he was also defeated by the other party. Now his martial heart was about to collapse. Because the other party was too mysterious. This battle was truly too depressing. The Golden Lion King looked at Lin Xian. The other party was using his war tribe's ultimate skill. Moreover, the other party was stronger than him. This made him mad. He roared crazily. The golden rune between his eyebrows flickered. At the next moment, he gritted his teeth and roared. Brat, I don't believe that you can copy my bloodline power. In the next moment, he used his bloodline secret skill and attacked madly. Suddenly, the power of his bloodline burst out, and a red light rushed out from his forehead. It turned into a red blood sword and slashed down madly. Bloodline sword. The long sword contained a terrifying bloodline power, and mysterious runes flickered on it. The blood-red long sword rushed out, shattering all the black suns and quickly rushed towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian quickly dodged and used the demigods and semi-devils. He also used the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword to fight back. The two sword techniques clashed fiercely in the air. Clang. It was as if a magnificent army was galloping. The blood-red long sword returned to the Golden Lion King's side and floated in front of him. On the other side, Lin Xian also snorted coldly as sword light bloomed from his body. Kid, aren't you very powerful? Make a copy of my bloodline sword. The Golden Lion King sneered again. How is it? You can't use it anymore, right? Do you think you're very powerful? You can't use the same divine ability as my bloodline power at all. The Golden Lion King sneered disdainfully. You guessed correctly. Lin Xian couldn't copy the divine ability of the bloodline power. However, he sneered in the next moment. So what if you can't copy it? Could it be that you can copy all my divine abilities? What a joke. Of course I can. The Golden Lion King was filled with confidence again. You don't have bloodline power, so you don't have any secret bloodline skills. As long as it's not a divine ability formed by bloodline power, I can use it. The sword technique you used to resist my bloodline sword should be a heaven tier sword technique, right? I can use it too. The Golden Lion King snorted and quickly activated the bloodline sword beside him. Suddenly, the bloodline sword soared into the sky and quickly danced in the air. It looked exactly the same as the chaotic Heaven Destroyer sword that Lin Xian used previously. Kid, do you see that? I can also use heaven tier techniques. However, you can't copy my bloodline sword. Therefore, you will definitely die in this battle. Do you think I only have heaven tier techniques? Lin Xian's expression was cold as his eyes flickered. The Golden Lion King was right. He couldn't copy the secret technique of the bloodline power. However, so what? He also had many ultimate moves that the other party couldn't copy. Therefore Lin Xian decided to use his strongest trump card. He didn't want to delay any longer. He had to kill this person in front of him. Buzz. In the next moment, rays of golden light appeared in Lin Xian's eyes. They turned into mysterious patterns that covered his entire eyeball. A pair of golden eyes emitted a mysterious aura. Golden eyes? The Golden Lion King was stunned when he saw this scene. In the next moment he felt his hair stand on end as if he was facing a terrifying threat. Floating light. As expected, the mysterious patterns in Lin Xian's eyes rotated and he launched a powerful attack. The Golden Lion King's body trembled. His soul power was hit by a strong impact as if it was going to shatter his soul. In the next moment he screamed crazily. Anger appeared in his eyes and the flames on his body surged rapidly. Damn it! It's a soul attack. Block it for me. There was a blue necklace around the Golden Lion King's neck. It was emitting a blue radiance. This was a treasure for soul defense. It formed a strong defense to block Lin Xian's floating light attack. However, it was useless. He underestimated Lin Xian's eye technique. If it was an ordinary eye technique, the blue necklace would definitely be able to block it. However, this was an illusion released by the heavenly secret divine eyes. It was extremely terrifying. Therefore the Golden Lion King fell for it. Boom. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian decisively made his move. The primal chaos exterminating sword slashed out quickly and ruthlessly on the Golden Lion King's body, sending him flying. Boom boom boom. The sky shattered and the earth sank. The Golden Lion King vomited a mouthful of blood. The armor on his body was shattered again. Many of his bones were even broken. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were also impacted. The intense pain made him wake up from the illusion. In the next moment he roared toward the sky. Golden radiance enveloped his body. He quickly repaired his body. At the same time, he activated the bloodline sword beside him and slashed away the remaining chaotic sword chi. Damn it! This is impossible. The Golden Lion King's face turned ugly once again. The advantage he had gained because of the bloodline sword had disappeared once again. He didn't expect his opponent to use an eye technique. Moreover, it was such a terrifying illusion. Even his soul defense treasure couldn't block it. In the next moment he roared ferociously. However, soon the corner of his mouth curled up into a smile. Kid, I have to say, thank you very much for giving me such a powerful illusion attack. The Golden Lion King was too excited. If he used his bloodline power to perform such an illusion attack, he would definitely be able to heavily injure his opponent. Chapter 2184. Therefore, in the next moment, the bloodline power in his body circulated crazily. His pair of blood-red eyes gradually turned golden. But soon, his body trembled and he stood there in a daze. Cold sweat even flowed down his forehead. Damn it, impossible. This is impossible. Why can't I copy it? The Golden Lion King was stunned because he realized that he couldn't copy Lin Xian's eye technique at all. What's going on? The Golden Lion King didn't dare to believe it. He couldn't understand how the other party could have something that he couldn't copy. Could it be the power of bloodline? Other than the power of bloodline, he couldn't think of anything else. Because he could even copy a heaven-tier cultivation technique. Damn it, the power of bloodline, you actually have the power of bloodline. The Golden Lion King roared crazily. He originally thought that Lin Xian was just an ordinary genius and didn't have the power of bloodline. But now he realized that he was gravely mistaken. The other party actually had the power of bloodline, and it was incomparably mysterious. On the opposite side, Lin Xian saw the Golden Lion King's crazy appearance and sneered. Why didn't you say that you could copy all my divine abilities? Now copy it and see. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the Golden Lion King was so angry that he vomited blood. This was a slap to his face. And he couldn't even fight back. In the next moment he gritted his teeth and roared. Brat, don't be too arrogant. I have soul attacks too. I can still kill you. You have it too? Is that so? Then show it and let me see. The golden runes in Lin Xian's eyes flickered like a god, incomparably mysterious. If you will see it. The Golden Lion King's expression was cold. His bloodline power circulated crazily. The golden light in his eyes disappeared and was replaced by a touch of blood red. My battle race was born for battle and is incomparably powerful. Do you think my battle race doesn't have any divine abilities? Now I will let you see it. As the Golden Lion King's voice fell, the blood-red light in his eyes became even more monstrous. It was like a sea of blood, emitting an incomparably terrifying aura. Soul slash. As his voice fell, countless blood-red light bloomed in his eyes. Ka. The void in front of him shattered like a mirror. Formless energy surged in the sky, and Lin Xian also felt a threat that came from his soul surging toward him. When this energy surged out, even Lin Xian couldn't help but be shocked. Truly worthy of being a genius of the war race. This Golden Lion King was truly too frightening. In fact, he even felt that the other party could stand shoulder to shoulder with supreme beings. This war race was so mysterious. They actually had a soul-level divine ability, and it was so terrifying. Lin Xian snorted. In the next moment, the golden Dao pattern in his right eye rotated and turned into a golden flame. Ranhun. Golden flames drifted out, formless and formless. The void instantly shattered, unable to withstand it at all. The crimson light began to burn rapidly. Off. The golden flame was not big, but it was incomparably terrifying. In an instant, many blood-colored rays of light were ignited and burned fiercely, showing signs of spreading for thousands of miles. On the other side, the Golden Lion King held its head and screamed miserably. Its eyes were blank. It gritted its teeth and waved the bloodline sword beside it, cutting off the connection between the crimson light and itself. Then it retreated thousands of miles, panting heavily. Its face was incomparably pale. As for the crimson light that was cut off, it quickly burned and turned into ashes. Damn it, impossible. How could this be? The Golden Lion King was stunned. The other party's eye technique was actually stronger than his. One had to know that this soul slash was a soul attack that used its bloodline power. It could instantly slash anyone's soul. It was extremely terrifying and impossible to guard against. It was a secret technique that belonged to it. Once it was used, no one below the Supreme Being level could resist it. If a Supreme Being was accidentally hit by it, they would probably be seriously injured. However, such a terrifying soul slash was actually burned into ashes, leaving nothing behind. What exactly was that golden flame of the other party? Was it a soul flame condensed from an eye technique? The Golden Lion King was extremely shocked. Even the soul flame of a Supreme Being wasn't that terrifying. Unless it was the soul flame of an invincible king. However, the other party was obviously not an invincible king. In fact, he was just a 6-star king like it. No matter how strong the soul power was, how strong could it be? Why was the soul flame so terrifying? Could it be that it wasn't the soul flame? Then what was it? The Golden Lion King's face was incomparably ugly. However, in the next moment all the hair on its body stood up. Because it realized that the golden flame was quickly floating towards it. Its soul felt threatened. The Golden Lion King's face instantly turned green. If it was enveloped by this thing, its soul would probably be ignited. At that time, even if it didn't die, it would be seriously injured. Moreover, it would be an injury that would be very difficult to recover from. Damn it. The Golden Lion King was like a golden lightning, constantly dodging and teleporting in the air. However, the golden flame seemed to be staring at it. No matter how it dodged, it couldn't escape. Bloodline sword. Kill it. There was no other way. The Golden Lion King could only activate the bloodline sword beside it. Whoosh. The bloodline sword bloomed with runes and turned into a bolt of lightning. It instantly flew out and slashed at the golden flame. Boom. This attack was too terrifying. The explosive energy directly blew up everything. The bloodline sword was indeed mysterious and incomparably terrifying. It contained the bloodline power of the war tribe. Therefore, even if the golden flame was summoned by the Tianji divine eyes, it was still affected. The golden flame on it was somewhat dim. However, the bloodline sword wasn't in a good state either. The blood-colored light on it was flickering like boiling water. It was about to be ignited. The blood-colored light quickly slashed the entire bloodline sword, as if it was about to melt. Seeing this scene, the Golden Lion King's face turned ugly. It roared crazily. Damn it, how could it be like this? This was impossible. It knew how powerful the bloodline sword was. There was absolutely nothing that could block it. However, the golden flame was actually able to block it. Damn it, kill it for me. The Golden Lion King roared crazily and poured all its bloodline power into the sword. Immediately, the bloodline sword bloomed with a strange light. However, on the other side, Lin Xian also activated the Tianji divine eyes. The mysterious runes shone with golden light. The golden flame also became stronger. Boom, boom, boom. The flame flickered, able to ignite the bloodline sword. There was no other way. Seeing that the bloodline sword was about to melt, the Golden Lion King gritted its teeth and a trace of madness appeared in its eyes. Block it for me. It roared and directly detonated the bloodline sword. Immediately, the bloodline sword exploded, turning into a blood-colored energy ball and spreading in all directions. The area within a radius of 10,000 miles was instantly covered by the blood-colored energy ball, and it was still continuing. 10,000 miles, 20,000 miles, 30,000 miles. Soon, 50,000 miles was completely covered. Chapter 2185. The eighth prince, the first prince, and the others also felt their scalps go numb as they frantically retreated. They retreated to 70,000 miles away once again, their faces filled with fear. The area in front of them was completely enveloped by the blood-colored energy. They couldn't see clearly at all. The royal elders and experts in the Grand Imperial Hall all frowned and cried out in alarm. They couldn't see the details of the previous battle clearly. Therefore, they didn't know that the Golden Lion King had used the Bloodline Sword. They also didn't know that Lin Xian had used the Heavenly Secret Divine Eyes. Otherwise, they would have gone even crazier than now. They could only see a blood-colored ball of energy covering a radius of 50,000 miles. The terrifying scene caused them to be extremely shocked. However, they couldn't figure out what kind of attack it was. The blood-colored ball of light lasted for a long time before it gradually faded away. Then, the world regained its clarity. The violent energy also gradually disappeared. However, the eighth prince and the others didn't dare to approach. They could only wait in bewilderment. In front of them, the Golden Lion King's armor was mostly shattered. His hair was disheveled and he looked extremely miserable. Blood flowed from his body. It was abnormally red. He frantically made the Bloodline Sword explode and finally blocked the golden flame. However, he also suffered from the impact and was heavily injured. On the other side, the Dragon Sword domain on Lin Xian's body slowly dispersed. The black armor on his body was also mostly shattered. Blood also flowed from the corner of his mouth. The impact just now had also injured him. At this moment he took out a few elixirs and quickly consumed them. The longevity art in his body circulated rapidly and healed his injuries. Although he was injured, his eyes were incomparably sharp. Damn it, how is this possible? This is impossible. On the other side, the Golden Lion King roared crazily. He stared at Lin Xian. Looking at those golden eyes, he suddenly thought of something. Could it be that this was some kind of eye technique? Heavenly Secret Divine Eyes. You're from the Heavenly Secret Race. The Golden Lion King's pupils shrank. The Heavenly Secret Race was an even more mysterious race than the War Race. However, the Heavenly Secret Race was also at the peak of the ancient era. They had already gone extinct for tens of thousands of years. There probably wasn't a single member of the Heaven's Legacy race left alive on the continent. However, his golden eyes were simply too similar to the legendary Heavenly Fate God eyes. The Golden Lion King could not help but be suspicious of its might. Damn it, just what is your relationship with the Heaven's Legacy race? Are you from the Heaven's Legacy race? The Golden Lion King had a malevolent expression. As for Lin Xian, he was frowning. Had he been recognized? Sure enough, his golden eyes were too eye-catching. This Golden Lion King should have guessed it. But since that was the case, Lin Xian pulled out the Nine Nether Devil Sword, his body emitting a terrifying killing intent. Since you've guessed it, I can't let you live. Killing intent surfaced in Lin Xian's eyes. He had decided to kill this Golden Lion King. Although it was very risky and might incur the wrath of the heavens, he could not let the news of him possessing the Heavenly Secret Godly Eyes spread out. Otherwise he would become the enemy of the entire world. He was afraid that the people from the Tai dynasty would also attack him. After all, the Heavenly Secret Godly Eyes was an extremely mysterious eye. It was rumored that it was related to the Reincarnation Sword. Regardless of whether the legend was true or not, the power of the Heavenly Secret Godly Eyes was enough to drive everyone crazy. Want to kill me? Not so easy. The Golden Lion King coldly snorted. He was very sure that his opponent's eyes were the legendary Heavenly Secret Godly Eyes. He did not expect that he would encounter the Heavenly Secret Godly Eyes one day. Brat, I did not expect you to possess the Heavenly Secret Godly Eyes. Since that's the case, I will not let you go. After obtaining your eyes, perhaps no one in the world will be my match. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to obtain information related to the Reincarnation Sword. The Golden Lion King laughed crazily. He took out countless treasures from his storage ring and consumed them without any regard for his life. Right now, he needed to quickly heal his injuries and kill Lin Xian. Whoosh. Brat, I admit that you are very powerful and have the Heavenly Secret Godly Eyes. But if I fight with my life on the line, you are definitely not my match. Speaking until here, the bloodline power in his body began to burn. A scarlet flame wrapped around him. Boom. The Golden Lion King's power and aura erupted once again. At this moment he was extremely terrifying. He had even surpassed the peak experts, burning his bloodline power. At this moment, everyone could feel the aura emitted by the Golden Lion King. The first prince and the others were extremely shocked. The imperial elders also felt their scalps go numb. What kind of situation did the Golden Lion King encounter? Why did he have to burn his bloodline power? This was a way to fight with his life on the line. Even if he managed to kill his opponent, he would be severely injured. His cultivation might even drop. He might even need to spend hundreds or thousands of years to recover. However, the Golden Lion King actually burned his bloodline power without any regard for anything else. Could it be that Lin Xian was already so powerful? Lin Xian also frowned. He did not expect the Golden Lion King to be so crazy. He did not hesitate to burn his bloodline power and burn his life to snatch the heavenly secret godly eyes. It seemed like his prediction was right. He had to kill the Golden Lion King. Otherwise, when the other experts got the news, they would probably hunt him down at all costs. Buzz buzz buzz. The power of the Golden Lion King's bloodline burned and turned into 18 ancient runes, protecting his head. Brat, it's useless. Your heavenly secret godly eyes can't hurt me this time. The Golden Lion King coldly snorted. 18 incomparably ancient runes ignited the power of its bloodline and protected its head, which also protected its soul. Without the heavenly secret godly eyes, let's see what you can use to fight me. Boom. Speaking until here, the Golden Lion King's aura erupted. Then he quickly charged over. In an instant he arrived in front of Lin Xian. The golden fist in his hand was wrapped in blood-red flames as he ruthlessly punched out. At this moment, the Golden Lion King's strength increased by several folds. There was no other way. The burning of his bloodline power was too terrifying. Boom. Lin Xian was forced back. The black armor on his body was completely shattered. He vomited a large mouthful of blood and his face was extremely gloomy. Ah, did you see that? You can't even block one of my punches. Now obediently die for me. Seeing that he had forced his opponent back with one punch, the Golden Lion King laughed proudly again. He didn't dare to delay. After all, what he burned was his bloodline power. Therefore, in the next moment he turned into lightning and charged over again. He wanted to use the fastest time to finish off his opponent. Lin Xian's eyes were cold as he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He used the two secret techniques, floating light and soul ignition. The golden light in his eyes erupted and swept out. However, it was blocked by the opponent's 18 ancient runes. Indeed, under the effect of the Golden Lion King burning his bloodline power, it finally blocked his heavenly secret godly eyes. Unless Lin Xian also burned his soul power, he might be able to kill his opponent. However, Lin Xian wouldn't do that. Chapter 2186. Unless Lin Xian also desperately burned his soul power, he might be able to kill the other party. However, Lin Xian would not do that. It seemed that he had no choice but to use that move. After being blasted back again, Lin Xian clenched his fist and quickly formed a seal. Suddenly, a loud dragon roar rushed out from his body. Buzz. At the same time, the dragon sword domain spread out, covering a radius of 10,000 miles. The sword chi it emitted blocked everyone's view. King domain against me? It's useless, kid. Your domain is no threat to me. Seeing Lin Xian use the king domain to cover a radius of 10,000 miles, the Golden Lion King sneered in disdain. Lin Xian's expression was cold as he floated in the sky. He did not answer the other party, nor did he plan to use the dragon sword domain to kill the other party. He planned to use the dragon sword soul in his body to kill the other party. Buzz. Therefore he wanted to use the king domain to block the view of others. After all, the dragon sword soul was comparable to the heavenly secret divine eyes. It was more mysterious. It was something that could make people go crazy. If the secret of him having the dragon sword soul was leaked, it would not only affect the entire central continent, but also the entire true spirit world. Everyone in the 5 continents would desperately hunt him down. Those invincible kings were no exception. Perhaps even the sages would come out to kill him and seize the dragon sword soul. A dragon-shaped sword shadow appeared in front of Lin Xian, emitting a terrifying aura. It was as if a divine dragon had appeared in the world. Boom, boom, boom. A deep dragon roar sounded, and the surrounding space shattered. It could not withstand this energy at all. A terrifying sword aura rushed into the sky. On the opposite side, the Golden Lion King was extremely shocked. He stopped moving, and his body was surrounded by a bloody light as he looked in front of him in shock. He did not expect Lin Xian to have other trump cards other than the heavenly secret divine eyes. Moreover, this energy fluctuation was even more terrifying than the heavenly secret divine eyes. What was that? The Golden Lion King looked ahead with a gloomy face. He discovered that there was a dragon-shaped sword shadow in front of him. It was very ferocious, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as if it was going to break through the sky. This was? The Golden Lion King was shocked. Suddenly, the burning red flames on its body began to surge and jump, as if it had become crazy. Not only that, but all the flames danced forward as if they wanted to kneel down and worship their king. What was going on? The Golden Lion King was stunned. Lin Xian was also stunned. How could such a thing happen to the other party? Could this be related to the great dragon sword soul? In the distance, the Golden Lion King was even more astonished. That was because it was not only the red flames on his body, the bloodline power in his body was also rapidly pulsating like a war drum, abnormally rumbling. In the end, it was even about to leave his body. Damn it, what's going on? How could my bloodline power have changed? The Golden Lion King was stupefied. He had never encountered such an unforeseen change in the power of his bloodline. In the next moment he suddenly raised his head and stared straight ahead. Could it be that it was because of that sword shadow? He swallowed his saliva in disbelief. However, the only thing that could make his bloodline power tremble so crazily was probably that thing. Damn it, how could the other party have such a thing? The Golden Lion King did not dare to believe it. Their war tribe had been searching for it for tens of thousands of years, but they could not find it. How could it be in the hands of a brat? The Golden Lion King felt his breathing become hurried, and his blood was boiling. He was simply too shocked. That thing was even more terrifying than the heavenly secret divine eyes, an even more terrifying existence. It was also what their war tribe had been searching for all this time. The Great Dragon Sword. Damn it, you actually have the Great Dragon Sword. The Golden Lion King finally gritted his teeth and roared. Lin Xian's brows twitched, and his face was filled with astonishment. He did not expect that the other party would recognize his Great Dragon Sword soul the moment it appeared. How was this possible? Could it be that the Golden Lion King knew so much about the Great Dragon Sword? Or could it be that he knew about the Great Dragon Sword? You actually know about the Great Dragon Sword? This is really unexpected. Lin Xian said in a deep voice. The Golden Lion King snorted coldly, and a trace of madness appeared in its eyes. Brat, I have to say that you have given me too many surprises. You have the heavenly secret divine eyes, a heaven-defying eye technique. Now you even have the Great Dragon Sword soul. I don't know how the Great Dragon Sword soul ended up in your body. However, you are not worthy of possessing such a sacred item. This is something that belongs to our war tribe. Now hand it over obediently. Otherwise, I will let you die an ugly death. Something that belongs to your war tribe? Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned even more. What was going on? How was the war tribe related to the Great Dragon Sword? He was extremely surprised because the corpse of the fourth-generation successor of the Dragon Sword was in Black Earth. Now that he had obtained the Great Dragon Sword soul, logically speaking, he should be the fifth-generation successor of the Great Dragon Sword. However, what was the relationship with the war tribe? Could it be that someone from the war tribe had obtained the Great Dragon Sword before? Was it the second-generation successor or the third-generation successor? Or was there some other reason? Lin Xian did not know. When he asked He Tu also shook his head. He had never heard of the war tribe being related to the Great Dragon Sword. Thus, Lin Xian snorted coldly. I don't care what relationship your war tribe has with the Great Dragon Sword, but now, it belongs to me. What a load of nonsense. Belongs to you? Brat, you are too reckless. The Golden Lion King roared. Our war tribe was born for battle. This Great Dragon Sword was born to belong to us. Since you are not willing to hand it over obediently, then don't blame me for being impolite. In the next moment he ignited his bloodline power again and charged over madly. Boom. The Golden Lion King tore through the void and arrived in front of Lin Xian in an instant. He stretched out his 5 fingers and a blood-colored palm grabbed at the dragon-shaped sword shadow. He wanted to snatch it away. Lin Xian snorted coldly. You dare to snatch my dragon-shaped sword shadow? You are courting death. He grabbed the dragon-shaped sword shadow and let out a resonant dragon roar. With a swing of his sword, a terrifying dragon-shaped sword chi tore through the void and slashed at the Golden Lion King. Buzz. The Golden Lion King dodged rapidly and appeared on the other side of Lin Xian in an instant. At the same time, both of his hands quickly formed seals. One after another, mysterious and simple runes flew out from his fingertips. At the same time, he let out a series of strange syllables. It was as if he was speaking from the outer world. Buzz. As if it was affected, the dragon-shaped sword shadow in Lin Xian's hand also let out a dragon roar. What was going on? He was actually able to affect the great dragon sword soul? Lin Xian was extremely shocked. This was the first time he encountered such a thing. However, in the next moment he grabbed the great dragon sword soul and the energy in his body quickly circulated. Instantly the connection was severed. Soon after, the sword chi swept out again. Bang! This time the Golden Lion King was directly sent flying by the sword chi. A huge sword wound appeared on its body. Fresh blood flowed out crazily and it was almost split into two. Chapter 2187. The Golden Lion King was directly sent flying by the sword chi, and a huge sword wound appeared on his body. Blood flowed wildly and he was almost cut in half. As for his expression, it was also one of extreme fear. Damn it! This is impossible. How can you cut off my connection with the great dragon sword soul? The Golden Lion King was too shocked because their war tribe had a mysterious connection with the great dragon sword. The seal and the strange sound he sent out before were all used to communicate with the great dragon sword. Although it was his first time using it, it was an ancient record of their war tribe. There was no way it was wrong. Moreover, the great dragon sword soul also let out a loud sound as if it was responding. Originally, he thought he could control the great dragon sword soul, but he didn't expect that his connection would be cut off in an instant. The other party could actually control the great dragon sword soul completely. How is this possible? He didn't dare to believe it. The next moment, he gritted his teeth and frantically used this secret technique, wanting to communicate with the great dragon sword soul. But this time it failed. Lin Xian and the great dragon sword soul seemed to have merged into one. He continuously sent out dragon-shaped sword chi, slashing in all directions. This caused the Golden Lion King to continuously retreat, vomiting large mouthfuls of blood. How is this possible? I don't believe it. How did you completely subdue the great dragon sword soul? The Golden Lion King had really gone crazy. He had learned about the great dragon sword soul's mysteriousness from the ancient records of the war tribe. That was an offensive sync technique between heaven and earth. Whoever grasped it would obtain the strongest power. However, the more violent the power, the harder it was to control. It was rumored that even saints couldn't completely control it. But now, this kid, a 6-star king, could actually completely control the great dragon sword soul. He didn't dare to believe it. Damn it, this can't be real. The Golden Lion King gritted his teeth and roared. But in the next moment he turned around and fled. His speed was extremely fast. Because he didn't plan to continue fighting. He wanted to go back. He wanted to leave this place and return to his family. He wanted the war tribe to send out countless experts to snatch the great dragon sword soul. He definitely couldn't let the great dragon sword soul fall into the hands of others. But the Golden Lion King turned around and fled. His speed was extremely fast. Wanna leave? Lin Xian coldly snorted and quickly waved the dragon-shaped sword in his hand. At the same time he activated the dragon sword domain around him and sent out streams of sword chi to form a sword net cage, sealing off the space and preventing the Golden Lion King from escaping. He had already used 2 of his trump cards, completely exposing his identity in secret. How could he allow the other party to escape? The dragon-shaped sword in his hand slashed out a terrifying sword chi. It tore through the void and instantly enveloped the Golden Lion King. The Golden Lion King was so scared that his scalp went numb. All the hair on his body stood up, because this sword chi was simply too terrifying. In the next moment, a hint of madness appeared in his eyes as he quickly cut open his palm. Countless runes condensed in his palm, accompanied by a stream of scarlet blood. Boom. This was a secret magic formed by his bloodline power. Behind him, a bloody figure took his place. The bloody man was split into 2 halves by the sword. As for the Golden Lion King, it appeared 1,000 miles away. It was in an extremely sorry state, but it was running away as if it had gone mad. He dodged it? Seeing this scene, Lin Xian frowned. He didn't expect the Golden Lion King to have so many secret skills. It was actually able to dodge his dragon-shaped sword chi. This really surprised him. However, this made it even more impossible for him to let the other party leave. In the next moment, he gathered the energy in his body again and prepared to launch the second dragon-shaped sword chi. However, at this moment, the dragon sword domain around him trembled rapidly. It turned into a torrential sword light and flew toward the Golden Lion King. Scram! The Golden Lion King roared toward the sky. It burned its bloodline power again without caring about the price. It formed a blood-colored lion and directly shattered the void. Buzz! The Golden Lion King stepped into the blood-colored whirlpool and appeared a few thousand miles away again. The moment he appeared, he ran for his life. That was the Golden Lion King. He came out. He was fine. In the distance, the first prince and the others looked into the distance and were extremely shocked. They didn't expect the Golden Lion King to be the first to come out. Could it be that he won? Thinking of this, the first prince laughed crazily. He was extremely excited. That's great. The Golden Lion King won and killed that brat. In this way they could join hands and kill the 8th prince. On the other hand, the 8th prince's face was extremely ugly. If Lin Xian was killed, they would no longer have any chance of winning. The 8th prince's face was even more gloomy. He shook his head crazily. Impossible. Brother Lin couldn't be killed. Lin Xian was extremely powerful. He didn't believe that the Golden Lion King could kill him. In the next moment, the void in the distance shattered. Following that, another figure quickly appeared. It was Lin Xian. Baleful aura surrounded his body. A terrifying sword light covered a radius of more than 10 meters, forming a sword world. Others couldn't see it clearly. He did this because he wanted to hide the heavenly secret divine eyes and the great dragon sword spirit. When his aura appeared, the 8th prince and the others in the distance exclaimed, Lin Xian. It was Lin Xian. Lin Xian also came out. He didn't die. That's great. The 8th prince's side was excited. On the other hand, the first prince's side was gloomy. Damn it. What's going on? This kid didn't die. This was far beyond their expectations. At this moment, even the royal elders and almighty experts in the Grand Imperial Hall were extremely surprised. Previously, they could only see the terrifying energy shockwaves. Now they could finally see the two figures. However, these two people were too mysterious. One of them was shrouded in a blood-red light, and it was hard to tell him apart. The other was shrouded in a sharp sword chi, and it was also hard to see him clearly. However, they could still distinguish who was who. The one with blood-red aura was naturally the Golden Lion King. That blood-red aura should be the power of bloodline. The one whose body was filled with sword chi was naturally Lin Xian. After all, he was an incomparably terrifying swordsman. But soon they were stunned. Because after Lin Xian came out, he shouted coldly, "Want to leave? Do you think you can leave?" As he spoke, a terrifying sword light shot out rapidly, forming a huge dragon in the air and surging forward. Damn it. The blood-red figure in front roared and struck out a huge blood-red palm. It was like the palm of a Buddha, fiercely slapping towards the void. Boom. The heaven and earth shook. The blood-red palm slapped on the terrifying sword chi, forming a huge energy storm. But soon the blood-red palm was cut open. Countless blood surged in all directions. The Golden Lion King coldly snorted and turned around to escape. What's going on? The Golden Lion King escaped? The almighty experts on the first prince's side were all dumbfounded. Even the first prince's mouth twitched. His face was gloomy. In the Grand Imperial Hall, the royal elders were even more shocked. Heavens, did the Golden Lion King lose? Why did it escape? To be honest, they were really confused. They didn't know what was going on. Chapter 2188. To be honest, they were all confused. They had no idea what was going on. The 8th prince's side was also stunned. Previously they were worried that Lin Xian would be killed. But now it seemed like that wasn't the case. The one at a disadvantage was definitely the Golden Lion King. Otherwise, with his character and identity, it would be impossible for him to escape. Today you won't be able to escape. Behind him, Lin Xian used Heavenly Dragon's 8 steps and chased after him with extreme speed. The two of them were very fast and disappeared into the void in an instant. Damn it, chase after them. The first prince roared angrily and led his men to quickly catch up. The 8th prince waved his hand and said, "Let's go and support Brother Lin." They were too excited. As long as they could defeat the Golden Lion King, their side would win for sure. Therefore these people all soared into the sky and chased after them. In an instant, a great chase began. Inside the Grand Imperial Palace, these people looked at the flickering figure on the screen and were all stunned. At this moment, the royal elders, experts, and the other princes were all stunned. They didn't dare to believe it. The incomparably powerful genius of the war tribe, the Golden Lion King, was actually being chased. Moreover, he was being chased by a 6-star king. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. The queen's face was so gloomy that it was terrifying. Killing intent surged out of her body. Inside her sleeves, a pair of jade-like hands were clenched tightly. Damn it, how could it be? How could it be? How could the Golden Lion King be chased? She was about to go crazy because she couldn't accept the fact in front of her eyes. That was the Golden Lion King. He was the genius of the war tribe. His strength was terrifying. In addition to the power of his bloodline, no one below the realm of supreme experts could suppress him. Not to mention defeating him. But now, the Golden Lion King was actually running for his life. It was as if he had gone crazy and even burned his bloodline power. This meant that the Golden Lion King was defeated. Moreover, he lost miserably. Otherwise he wouldn't be running. He couldn't understand. What kind of technique or ability could defeat the Golden Lion King? On the other side, the Golden Lion King frowned and ran for his life. However, he was incomparably shocked because he found out that Lin Xian was chasing after him. He couldn't escape. Lin Xian slashed out with his sword and infused it with the power of the great dragon sword spirit. It was like a streak of divine red, releasing a terrifying power. This sword was powerful and heavy. It was like the roar of a giant dragon as it charged forward. Instantly, a part of the sky exploded. Whoosh. The Golden Lion King dodged with extreme speed, wanting to avoid this sword. However, he was still swept through by the sword wave. He was immediately sent flying, shattering the void, shattering the great earthquake below. Kill. Lin Xian's figure flickered, holding the dragon heart sword shadow in his hand as he charged downwards. Boom. Boom. The terrifying sword light completely submerged the ground below. Suddenly, the ground was struck down, forming a bottomless black hole. As for the Golden Lion King, it ignited its bloodline power without any regard for its life and soared into the sky. However, the injuries on his body were even more terrifying. There were 5 or 6 sword wounds on his back, and each of them revealed deep white bones. If it wasn't for the fact that he was a genius of the war race and had a strong physique as well as the power of his bloodline, the sword energy would have already torn him to pieces. Even so, he was still severely injured. Right now, he could only escape by igniting his life force without paying any price. In the distance, the first prince and the 8th prince were leading experts and flying at extreme speed. However, their speed wasn't as fast as the two of them. Hence, they were tens of thousands of miles away from them. However, these people were also rushing with all their might. When they sensed the scene in front of them, they were all stunned. However, at the next moment, they sensed that Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King had once again left their range of perception. This won't do. First prince, the two of them are too fast. We can't keep up. Even if we can't, we have to keep up. We have to pay attention to them. We can't lose them. The first prince roared crazily. The key to success or failure this time was the Golden Lion King. He definitely couldn't let anything happen to the Golden Lion King. On the other side, the 8th prince's expression was also grave. He didn't say anything. He only circulated his dragon aura with all his strength, enveloping everyone as he flew rapidly. In front, the Golden Lion King's face was incomparably pale. He had already suffered great injuries and could die at any time. Thinking of this, he roared crazily. Damn brat, you dare to kill me? You're dead meat. I'm from the war race. If you kill me, the war race won't let you off. At the back, Lin Xian sneered. He didn't slow down at all. Threatening me? Do you think I'll be afraid? Since you know my secret, I won't let you off. Damn it. The Golden Lion King's expression was crazed. The other party actually wasn't threatened at all. It really drove him crazy. However, he snorted again. You better think carefully. If you kill me, not to mention the war race, even the Tai dynasty won't let you off. They will definitely capture you and hand you over to the war race. Moreover, as long as my war race gives you the conditions, the whole world will crazily hunt you down. Lin Xian snorted coldly. The dragon-shaped sword chi in his hand slashed out again, slashing towards the Golden Lion King. This time, the Golden Lion King didn't dodge. Half of its body was enveloped by the dragon-shaped sword chi and instantly turned into powder. Blood crazily flowed, piercing through the void. The mountain below collapsed. The Golden Lion King frantically struggled with a malevolent expression. Because it was too painful, half of its body was completely hacked apart. The terrifying sword chi still filled the remaining part of its body. Pain, madness, shock, panic, all kinds of emotions filled it. As a genius of the war race, it had never suffered such a serious injury. Moreover, it was in danger of being killed at any time. Kid, die for me. The Golden Lion King's expression was crazed. It discovered that the half of its body that was hacked apart couldn't be restored. After all, it knew the aura of the great dragon sword spirit. It was impossible for it to resist that kind of power. Therefore, it decided to risk its life. Kid, so what if you kill me? I want you to die, you must die. I want you and the great dragon sword spirit to be buried with me. The Golden Lion King had really gone crazy. It decided to use its own life as the price to kill the other party. In the next moment, the remaining half of its body burned fiercely. The power of its bloodline was ignited, releasing an incomparable power. At this moment, the Golden Lion King's aura rose without limit. It's over. Lin Xian also took a deep breath. Soon after, he kept the 9 Nether Devil sword. He pulled out the broken ancient sword, and a monstrous power surged out from the ancient sword. Heaven-ranked treasure sword. Seeing this scene, the Golden Lion King's pupils shrank. This is your heavenly treasure? It was incomparably frightened. It turned around and fled. What a joke, it didn't even have the thought of risking its life. Chapter 2189. He was terrified as he turned around and fled. What a joke. He didn't even have the thought of risking his life. He definitely wouldn't be able to block the priceless sword and the great dragon sword soul. But with a slash of the sword, heaven and earth were shattered. The heaven-ranked sword was too sharp. It instantly took away half of Lin Xian's strength. The power of the great dragon sword soul covered the sword. The aura of the dragon sword soul burst out and shrouded the Golden Lion King. Oh! A miserable cry rang out. Then an infinite amount of sword chi burst out. Within a radius of 10,000 miles, huge sword chi pierced through the clouds. Boom! 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 Behind them, the first prince saw this scene and roared crazily. Stop! They stopped tens of thousands of miles away and looked ahead. Their faces were extremely ugly. The 8th prince's side also stopped. They carefully floated in the void because the power in front of them was too terrifying. It was enough to destroy them. Therefore they didn't dare to move forward. They could only wait far behind. In front of them, the huge sword chi was still there, covering the heaven and earth. At this moment, a figure walked out from the torrential sword chi. Lin Xian. It's Lin Xian. Is that brat? Everyone exclaimed. Then they looked at each other again. But soon they were stunned. Where's the Golden Lion King? Why didn't the Golden Lion King come out? They didn't know, but no one dared to move forward because the sword chi was still there. Lin Xian held the demonic sword and walked towards the first prince. At the same time he said coldly, 8th prince, it's time to deal with them. What? The first prince was shocked. The powerful figures behind him were also shocked. What's going on? Why is he attacking now? Could it be that the Golden Lion King was killed? The 8th prince was also puzzled. He subconsciously asked, Brother Lin, that Golden Lion King won't come out to fight with us again, right? Don't worry, he won't come out again. Lin Xian said coldly. The first prince and the others were shocked. What does he mean? Won't come out again? They looked ahead, bewildered. However, the light in front of them was so bright that they couldn't see clearly. But at this moment, Lin Xian made his move. He used the chaotic sky-splitting sword, and the terrifying sword technique instantly surged forward. Kill. The 8th prince's side let out a furious roar and attacked too. Damn it, block for me. Block it for me. The first prince roared furiously as the King Realm experts around him attacked with all their might. A great battle broke out once again. However, everyone was confused, especially the elders in the Grand Imperial Hall. All of them frowned. Because until now, the sword chi had yet to disappear, and the Golden Lion King's silhouette had yet to appear. Could it be that the Golden Lion King was trapped inside? Their eyes flickered, but for now they could only focus on the battle. Because this was the final battle. Who would become the Crown Prince? The situation of the Crown Prince was not looking good. Without the Golden Lion King, there was probably no one who could resist Lin Xian. That was indeed the case. However, after such a long battle, Lin Xian shouldn't have much strength left. I hope so. I wonder if the first prince and the others will be able to hold on. Sounds of discussion could be heard. Everyone was discussing spiritedly. The other prince's eyes flickered. To be honest, from the current situation, the one who had the highest chance of becoming the crown prince was actually the 8th prince. When such a conclusion appeared, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They couldn't believe it. Because before this, everyone thought that the first prince was the one who had the highest chance of becoming the crown prince. But now that might not be the case anymore. The Empress' face was gloomy. She was clenching her teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. The scene in front of her was extremely unfavorable for the first prince. Also, the Golden Lion King's situation made her even more confused. Why didn't he come out? Could it be that he was trapped? But what kind of array could trap the Golden Lion King? From the beginning to the end, these people, including the Empress, never thought that the Golden Lion King would be killed. Because in their opinion, no one would dare to touch the Golden Lion King. At most they would injure him. However, it was impossible to kill the Golden Lion King. Not to mention Lin Xian, even the members of the royal family did not dare to kill the Golden Lion King. Because the Golden Lion King was from the war race. Moreover, he was a peerless genius of the war race. Killing him was equivalent to enraging the war race. With the terror of the war race, no one could withstand it. Boom. A terrifying battle broke out. The first prince's side was forced to retreat. Although there were many almighties besieging Lin Xian, they even wanted to exhaust Lin Xian's strength. However, they realized that Lin Xian's strength did not weaken at all. It was as if the strength in his body was inexhaustible. It was shocking. How could they know that Lin Xian had many heavenly treasures in his hands? He could definitely recover quickly. Moreover, the miraculous art of longevity was far beyond their imagination. Therefore, this battle was completely one-sided. With the addition of Lin Xian, the 8th prince's side became fiercer and fiercer. In the end, the almighties around the first prince were sent flying one by one. In the end, there were only 2 elite almighties around the first prince. As for the first prince, many cracks appeared on his body. Even his tough battle armor was shattered. It's over. The first prince lost. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. The royal elders, the almighties, and the other princes were all shocked. The queen's face was terrifyingly gloomy. The murderous intent in her eyes pierced through the void. On the other hand, the emperor at the side said lightly. His eyes flickered. No one could tell whether he was happy, angry, or sad. However, one could guess that he was also very surprised. The first prince and the 2 almighties fought back crazily. However, in the end they could not escape the fate of being eliminated. In the end, only the 8th prince managed to stay in the second round. He also obtained all the jade talismans and trump cards. We won. We actually won. The almighties around the 8th prince were all excited and laughed crazily. Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the other young geniuses were extremely excited. They could not believe that they had won in the end. Taoist Master Long and the Lord of the Underworld gasped. To be honest, they did not expect this to be the outcome. Although the 8th prince was powerful before, there was still a certain gap between him and the first prince. They were not confident that they could become the crown prince in the end. However, with the help of Lin Xian, they managed to defeat the first prince and clinch the final victory. The 8th prince trembled with excitement. He came in front of Lin Xian, grabbed Lin Xian's shoulder and shouted happily, "Brother Lin won. I won. I'm the crown prince." "Ah. Congratulations, 8th prince." Lin Xian said with a smile. "Congratulations, 8th prince. Congratulations, 8th prince." Taoist Master Long, the Lord of the Underworld, Duan Qingqing, Lu Fei, and the others also cheered. Chapter 2190. Congratulations to the Crown Prince. The elders and princes who supported the 8th prince in the Grand Imperial Hall clapped their hands and laughed when they saw the scene on the screen. They were too excited. King Valurium was shocked when he saw the screen. To be honest, he did not expect Lin Xian to be so powerful. Moreover, he had played such a big role. On the other hand, the elders who supported De Huanzi were ashen-faced. The other Huanzi had different expressions on their faces. The 4th prince sighed. "I didn't expect that the final winner would be the 8th prince. We didn't guess it at all." That's right. Lin Xian was simply too powerful. He had managed to turn the tide of the battle single-handedly. One could conquer the world with one person. Previously they had thought that it was a legend. They did not expect such a person to exist. The 4th prince was still fine. He was just lamenting. On the other hand, the 3rd prince was furious. He did not expect the 8th prince to be the final winner. He could not accept it. He could accept it if the first prince was the final winner. After all, the first prince was stronger than him. However, the final winner was the 8th prince. A prince who was on par with him in terms of strength had now become the crown prince. This was the most unacceptable thing to him. It was not a problem to be defeated by someone who was better than him. However, he could not accept being surpassed by someone who was on par with him. That was how the 3rd prince felt. However, there was nothing he could do even if he wanted to vomit blood. Moreover, he knew that the 8th prince's status would be different from now on. He would be the crown prince above him. There was no way he could take revenge. However, the same could not be said for the other person. "Lin Xian, I will not let you go." The 3rd prince's eyes were cold. Lin Xian was strong, but he was only a young genius. Moreover, he would not stay by the 8th prince's side for the rest of his life. As long as Lin Xian left the palace, the 3rd prince could definitely send a peerless expert to kill him. He laughed coldly when he thought of this. He felt that there was no need for him to do anything. The first prince should be even angrier than him. With the first prince's status and the empress's background, how could he let this kid go? Let's see how you die this time. The third prince laughed coldly. The first prince was indeed furious. As soon as he was teleported out, he roared at the sky. His murderous aura was like a god of death. To be honest, his lungs were about to explode. He had lost. He never thought that he would lose the competition and let the eighth prince take the position of crown prince. This was beyond his wildest dreams. The surrounding powerful beings shook their heads and sighed. They had not expected this either. The first prince was the empress child. His strength was incomparably terrifying. Adding on the fact that he had the war race's genius, how could such a person lose? But in the end he was defeated. He had lost to the eighth prince. It had to be said that the eighth prince was definitely the biggest dark horse. Damn it. Lin Xian. I will definitely kill you. I won't let you off so easily. The first prince gritted his teeth. In his opinion, he had lost because of Lin Xian. If it wasn't for him, he wouldn't have lost. At the thought of this, the crown prince's gaze swept across his surroundings. Around him were the powerful experts and almighties who had been teleported out with him. These people shook their heads and sighed. Their faces were ashen. However, the first prince frowned and asked coldly, "Where's the Golden Lion King?" Hearing this, everyone was bewildered. Then, they turned their heads and found that the Golden Lion King was nowhere to be seen. What was going on? These experts were puzzled. They were too sad previously and didn't pay attention to the people around them. Now that they looked around, they didn't find any trace of the Golden Lion King. The first prince frowned. At this moment, one of the experts said, "Could it be that he left earlier than us?" "Impossible. This place is sealed. Only I can lead you out. Even if the others teleported out earlier, they can only wait here." The first prince's eyes were gloomy. Then he said, "Come, follow me to the Grand Imperial Hall." The first prince's face was gloomy. He led these people to the Grand Imperial Hall. When they arrived at the Grand Imperial Hall, everyone looked at them with complicated expressions. The first prince snorted. His eyes were like lightning as he scanned his surroundings. Then his frown deepened. Because there was no trace of the Golden Lion King. What was going on? The empress also stood up. "Mother, there was no trace of the Golden Lion King. Could it be that he didn't come here?" Hearing this, everyone was surprised. What was going on? Could it be that the Golden Lion King disappeared? After hearing this, the empress also frowned. The Golden Lion King didn't appear here. Men, go and check the surroundings. See if there's any trace of the Golden Lion King. Soon, the guards in the palace came to report that there was no trace of the Golden Lion King. What was going on? Everyone was discussing. Could it be that the Golden Lion King felt that he had lost face and decided to stay here and leave? That was possible. After all, he was a peerless genius. He probably didn't want to lose face. However, some people shook their heads and snorted. Impossible. A person like the Golden Lion King wouldn't leave so easily. He would definitely stay here and fight with Lin Xian until the end. Moreover, even if he left the palace, he would be detected by the experts guarding the palace. That was right. The Golden Lion King was so conceited and arrogant. How could he allow himself to be defeated? He would definitely challenge Lin Xian again. But now the Golden Lion King had disappeared. What was going on? Let's wait for the eighth prince and the others to come out and ask Lin Xian. Everyone waited patiently. On the other side, the eighth prince and the others were also teleported out. Then they walked towards the Grand Imperial Hall. When the eighth prince and the others arrived at the Grand Imperial Hall, they attracted everyone's attention again. It couldn't be helped. He was the future crown prince. If nothing went wrong, he would be the future ruler of the Tai dynasty. However, not everyone's gaze was friendly. At least, the third prince and the first prince looked cold. Especially the first prince. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. On the eighth prince's side, Lin Xian also frowned. He realized that many people were looking at him with a trace of doubt. Lin Xian was also very confused. What were these guys looking at? But at this time the first prince stood up and pointed at Lin Xian. He shouted coldly, "Kid, let me ask you. Where is your Golden Lion King?" When he said this, the eighth prince and the others were puzzled. What did the Golden Lion King have to do with them? Lin Xian laughed coldly as well. Could it be that the first prince had lost his mind because of his loss? The Golden Lion King was invited by you. What did it have to do with me? Chapter 2191. That's right, the Golden Lion King has nothing to do with me. The eighth prince also opened his mouth. The Crown Prince coldly snorted. What does it have to do with you? The Golden Lion King has already disappeared. What do you think it has to do with you? Brat, you were the one who fought the Golden Lion King. We don't know what happened in the end. Where did you take him? The moment he said that, everyone turned to look at Lin Xian. Even the Empress and the Emperor turned to look at him. There was nothing they could do. The Golden Lion King was too important. If they lost him, they wouldn't be able to answer to the war race. What's there to say? He lost and I left. How would I know what would happen next? Lin Xian sneered. I guess he lost and didn't have the face to stay here. Maybe he left the palace long ago. That's right. Maybe he found a place to hide. He might even have left. Duan Qingqing also said. Impossible. The Crown Prince coldly snorted. There was a record of anyone who left the palace. No one was an exception. No matter how strong the Golden Lion King was, it was impossible for him to leave the palace quietly. However, the experts guarding the palace didn't find any record of the Golden Lion King leaving. This meant that the Golden Lion King didn't leave at all. The entire palace has been searched by us. We didn't find the Golden Lion King's whereabouts. Then tell me, where is he? The Crown Prince's eyes were like lightning as he stared at Lin Xian. The others were also discussing. Some people even guessed that the Golden Lion King might still be in the space of the second stage. That was impossible. He was the Crown Prince's man. If the Crown Prince was teleported out, he must have been teleported out as well. That might not be the case. There was an exception. What's the situation? Someone asked. However, a royal elder said in a deep voice. Killed. The people who died in there wouldn't be teleported out. What? Killed. Hearing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Their scalps were numb. The Golden Lion King was killed? How was that possible? Who had the guts to kill the Golden Lion King? Everyone was dumbfounded and started discussing spiritedly. The eighth prince's side was also shocked. Many people looked at Lin Xian and even the eighth prince turned his head. Brother Lin? To be honest, he was also extremely shocked. Before this, he had never thought in this direction. That was because he knew that Lin Xian was a smart person. He naturally knew the consequences of killing the Golden Lion King. Therefore, he did not believe that Lin Xian had killed him. But now the Golden Lion King did not appear at all. And there was only one reason why it did not appear. Therefore, he was also very confused and could only look at Lin Xian. I don't know what you're talking about. Lin Shi looked at the Crown Prince and coldly spoke. How strong was the war race's genius? How could he be killed by him? Or are you saying that you've been eliminated and have no chance of becoming the Crown Prince, and now you want to take revenge and frame me? The Crown Prince was furious. The King Realm experts on the Crown Prince's side also stared at Lin Xian, killing intent surging in their eyes. The Crown Prince sneered. Take revenge on you? I have plenty of ways to take revenge on you. Any peerless almighty would be able to kill you. Do you think I will use such a method? That might not be the case. Using a King Realm expert is not good for your reputation. If you use such a method, you can get rid of me and also rope in the war race. Why not? Lin Xian sneered. At the side, the eighth prince also said in a deep voice. Boss, don't talk nonsense without evidence. Old eight, do you dare to lecture me now? The Crown Prince was furious. As for the eighth prince, he coldly snorted. Why not? I am the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. The word Crown Prince was like a sharp sword that pierced his heart, driving him crazy. Although he was the Crown Prince and was the son of the Empress, he was still just a prince. And now, the eighth prince opposite him had obtained the position of Crown Prince. He was the future ruler of the Tai dynasty, and his status was higher than his. However, he could not accept it. A little prince that he had stepped on before was now stepping on his head. How could he accept it? However, the eighth prince sneered. Lin Xian is the genius that I invited, and now he has helped me obtain the position of Crown Prince. He is my benefactor. Whoever dares to slander him, don't blame me for being impolite. At this point, the eighth prince's eyes were gloomy as he looked around. Immediately, many King Realm experts shut their mouths and did not even dare to look at him. It could not be helped. The eighth prince's status was different now. Now the eighth prince had obtained the final victory. He had obtained the position of Crown Prince and was about to become the real Crown Prince. And in the future he would be the ruler of the Tai dynasty. He was the ruler of the world. If they went against him now, they would be courting death. Therefore many people were silent for a while. On the other hand, the Crown Prince's face was gloomy. The Empress was also gritting her teeth. She realized that the Golden Lion King might really die in there. To her this was absolutely shocking news. Because the Golden Lion King was the genius of the war tribe that she had invited. If he was really killed here, she would not be able to explain it to the war tribe. Therefore, in the next moment she turned around and looked at the emperor. The emperor's eyes flickered as he spoke in a deep voice. This matter must be investigated thoroughly. After all, the Golden Lion King's identity was very important. Therefore, he immediately sent a few elders into the space of the second stage. They were to find the whereabouts of the Golden Lion King. As for you? The emperor looked at Lin Xian. Stay in the palace for a few days. When the matter is clear, you can leave. All right, hurry up and get to work. After saying that, the emperor waved his dragon robe and turned into a flash of light, disappearing from the palace. On the other side, the empress also snorted coldly. She rolled up her phoenix robe and left as well. The other elders of the royal family also gathered together to discuss how to enter the second stage and search. As for the remaining people, they left one after another. When the third prince passed by Lin Xian and the eighth prince, he snorted coldly. There was a trace of gloating in his eyes. The crown prince stared at Lin Xian. Brat, the Golden Lion King is really dead. Even if you die 100 times, you won't be able to quell your anger. Ridiculous. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He was too lazy to reply. The eighth prince's face was gloomy. Then he said, Brother Lin, stay here for now. When the matter is clear, everything will be fine. Next, the eighth prince arranged for Lin Xian to stay in the palace. The others did not leave either. They stayed in another place. In the palace of the eighth prince. Although the eighth prince had won and was about to become the crown prince, the atmosphere was very solemn. However, at that moment these people's moods were somewhat heavy. They had never expected such a thing to happen. The Golden Lion King had actually disappeared. Chapter 2192. He didn't expect that the matter of the Golden Lion King would arouse suspicion so quickly. If those elders entered the space of the second stage, they would definitely be able to find clues. At that time, the news of the Golden Lion King's death would also spread. If that was the case, the forces led by the first prince would definitely not let him go. They might even capture him and send him to the war race for punishment. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's gaze was somewhat gloomy. Although he was powerful, he wasn't arrogant enough to cause trouble in the Tai dynasty's palace. There were a bunch of peerless almighties and even invincible kings. Although he was powerful, he couldn't fight against so many people. However, if he forced his way in now, he could leave with the Black Earth while no one was paying attention. But then he would lose the baptism of the dragon's aura. One had to know that the reason why Lin Xian helped the eighth prince obtain the position of crown prince was for the baptism of the dragon's aura. But fortunately he had a trick up his sleeve. He brought the remaining half of the Golden Lion King's corpse into the Black Earth and it was now in his hands. When those people entered, they could only find the remnant aura and couldn't find the corpse at all. In other words, they only suspected him at most, but there was no direct evidence. However, this didn't mean that these people wouldn't make a move on him. How to deal with the time difference was still a problem. At the very least, he had to be baptized by the dragon's aura before leaving. While Lin Xian was thinking about how to escape on the other side in the Empress Phoenix Palace, a group of strategists was also troubled. Among them, the first prince sat there with a gloomy expression. He didn't expect that the eighth prince would obtain the final victory. Mother, what should we do? The Empress' eyes flickered. She also didn't expect the final result. Moreover, there was an even more troublesome matter in front of her now. That was the disappearance of the Golden Lion King. How was she going to explain this to the war race? However, at this moment, a very tall and sturdy middle-aged man wearing red battle armor stood up. He said, Sister, you don't have to worry. This matter may not be a bad thing for us. What did he say? The Empress looked at the middle-aged man in front of her and frowned. This person was her younger brother. His strength was very strong. He was a peerless almighty. That's right, uncle. The Golden Lion King's position in the war race is extremely high. That's right. Now that he's killed, the battle race's fury will definitely burn our side. Indeed, it will affect us. However, we are not the ones bearing the brunt of it. Don't forget that we were not the ones who killed the Golden Lion King. You mean? The Empress's eyes flickered, while the burly middle-aged man sneered. That's right, the eighth prince. Right now, the royal elders had already entered to search for the Golden Lion King. If they could find the corpse, that would be great. They could directly prove that it was the eighth prince's subordinate, Lin Xian, who killed the Golden Lion King. If they couldn't find the Golden Lion King's corpse, then it was fine because they couldn't find the Golden Lion King anywhere. This meant that the other party was undoubtedly killed. It was to the extent where even the corpse was destroyed. This would make the war race even more furious. Therefore, no matter what, the murderer was Lin Xian. As for Lin Xian, he was the 8th prince's subordinate. We only need to sow discord and the war race's fury will burn Lin Xian's body. It might even affect the 8th prince. If we let the 8th prince fight against the war race, sister, think about it. What kind of scene would that be? I even think that the 8th prince might not even be able to become the crown prince in the end. Don't forget, the war race is a legendary race. A prince who hasn't become the crown prince has completely offended such a race. How could our emperor let him become the crown prince? At that time the 8th prince would be deposed. Then the crown prince would naturally become the crown prince. Really? Hearing this, the empress was overjoyed. The crown prince was even more excited. That's great. As long as he could kill the 8th prince, he would definitely be able to become the crown prince. However, he soon frowned. Uncle, although this method sounds good, it's actually very difficult to execute. The 8th prince is not an idiot. He won't foolishly go against the war race. It doesn't matter. There are some things that he can't avoid even if he doesn't want to. After all, this matter was related to him. As long as the war race's fury came, the 8th prince would have no choice but to resist. Leave this matter to me. All right, I'll leave it to you. The empress nodded. After all, the middle-aged man in front of her was her younger brother and the crown prince's uncle. She believed that he could definitely help them. It was late at night. The 8th prince hadn't slept yet. Lin Xian hadn't slept either. He came to the 8th prince's study and gently knocked on the door. Brother Lin, it's you. Seeing that it was Lin Xian, the 8th prince was a little surprised. He opened the door and let Lin Xian in. Then he said, "It's so late. Why are you looking for me?" "Don't worry, Brother Lin. Although this matter is a little strange, I won't let those people hurt you without evidence." Lin Xian smiled. Then he asked, "Crown Prince, I want to ask, how long until the baptism of the dragon aura starts?" 3 days. 3 days later, you will be baptized by the dragon aura. The 8th prince said. The 8th prince sighed. According to the previous rules, I will be baptized by the dragon aura in 3 days. Then within a year I will worship the heavens and become the crown prince. Although there are some accidents now, the process shouldn't change. Don't worry, Brother Lin. You are my great benefactor. Without you, I wouldn't be able to become the crown prince. 3 days. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. It wasn't too late. However, he asked again, how long will it take for the royal elder to come back from the secondary space? It was hard to say. It depended on whether they found the Golden Lion King or found some key clues. Brother Lin, what happened to the Golden Lion King? Why did he disappear? The 8th prince was also very confused. Lin Xian looked at the 8th prince with flickering eyes. Then he raised his hand and a formation covered the entire study. Brother Lin, you? Seeing this scene, the 8th prince was shocked. However, he wasn't too worried. He realized that this was just a set of defensive needle techniques to prevent others from probing. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "I have killed the Golden Lion King." What? Hearing this, the 8th prince trembled. His face was full of shock. He couldn't believe it at all. What did you say? You killed the Golden Lion King? Shocked, he was simply too shocked. That was the Golden Lion King. It was incomparably terrifying. Even they didn't dare to offend it. After all, the war tribe was very mysterious and the Golden Lion King was a genius of the war tribe. If he suffered any losses, the war tribe would probably go crazy. You didn't hear it wrong. I killed the Golden Lion King. There was no need to talk about the specific process. In short, this was the result. Chapter 2193. You didn't hear wrongly. I killed the Golden Lion King. There's no need to talk about the specific process. In short, this is the result. Lin Xian said. However, do you know what the consequences of killing the Golden Lion King will be? The 8th prince's face was pale. Until now, he still hasn't recovered. I naturally thought of the consequences. However, I have a reason to kill him. Lin Xian said in a deep voice. 8th prince, I don't want to drag you down with me. However, I hope you can help me. But the 8th prince took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. Lin Xian said, I must participate in the baptism of Dragon Aura in 3 days. If the first prince and the others obstruct me at that time, I hope you can help me fight against them. Don't worry. Once I get the aura of Dragon Aura, I will immediately leave the palace and announce it to the public. The Golden Lion King was called a war god by me. It has nothing to do with you. This way it won't threaten your position as the crown prince. Brother Lin. Hearing this, the 8th prince was very surprised. He didn't expect that Lin Xian would want to protect him. This was really out of his expectations. In the next moment, the 8th prince said in a deep voice, Brother Lin, what kind of person do you think I am? You helped me get the position of the crown prince. I'm not that kind of person. Don't worry. I will definitely fight for you for the baptism of dragon aura in 3 days. Moreover, I will do my best to help you leave the palace safely. Although I can't fight against the war race directly, my status is different now. With my status as the crown prince, I can mobilize more resources to help you. At least, I can resist the first prince. Lin Xian and the 8th prince discussed for a while. Then they turned and left. After Lin Xian left, the 8th prince calmed down. After a while he shouted coldly. Someone? Yes. A ghostly figure appeared in the air and appeared in the study. He half knelt on the ground and was very respectful. Didn't many elders come to visit these few days? Tell them that I will summon them tomorrow. Yes. The figure once again turned into green smoke and disappeared into the void of space. The 8th prince's eyes flickered. The war clan, the first prince, was truly a powerful force. It seems that I really need to contact a group of elders and princes. The next 2 days were very quiet. It was because everybody was waiting for the elders who had entered the secondary space to send back messages. However, for some reason 2 days had passed and there was still no news. On the 3rd day, the entire palace began to bustle with activity. This was because today was the day that the baptism of the Tao of Dragons would begin. This was also the most exciting moment for all the powerful beings. The reason why they supported the princes at all costs, even putting their lives on the line, was for this final baptism of the Tao of Dragons. This was no ordinary Dragon Tao aura, but the Dragon Tao aura formed by the Tai dynasty's dragon vein. It contained incomparably mysterious and surging power. If they could receive the baptism of the Tao of Dragons, their strength and physique would definitely rise to a whole new level. Lin Xian was also extremely excited. During this period of time, as he cultivated and absorbed all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures, he had already reached the late-stage 6-star king realm. However, it would be very difficult for him to rise further. This was because many people had spent hundreds or even thousands of years without making a breakthrough. From this, one could imagine how terrifying the amount of energy required to do so was. However, today was an opportunity. If he could receive the baptism of the Tao of Dragons and absorb the powerful energy inside, his strength and cultivation would definitely rise to a whole new level. It was even possible for him to take the opportunity to make a breakthrough. On a square in the palace, there were runes engraved all over, emitting a mysterious light. At this moment, many princes had gathered there, as well as many powerful beings, kings and geniuses. This was the place where the baptism of the Tao of Dragons would take place. The first prince, the third prince, the fourth prince and the other princes were all there. The kings behind them were all very excited. Although they had failed, they could still receive the baptism of the Tao of Dragons. Of course, the only difference was the amount. The number of Tao of Dragons obtained by those who succeeded would definitely far exceed theirs. Moreover, the distribution of the Tao of Dragons was based on contribution. Whoever contributed the most in the battle for the position of Crown Prince would be able to claim the most Tao of Dragon Chi. Therefore, the group that received the most Tao of Dragons was naturally the kings around the 8th prince. Among the almighty kings around the 8th prince, the one who enjoyed the most was naturally Lin Xian. It could not be helped because Lin Xian's contribution was too great. He had single-handedly turned the situation around. Moreover, he had successfully eliminated the first prince, allowing the 8th prince to obtain the final victory. No one could compare to such a contribution. Therefore, he was naturally assigned to the Tao of Dragon Aura in the first place. However, when Lin Xian wanted to take the number 1 spot, the first prince stepped out. He snorted coldly. He was still a very important suspect and was not qualified to receive the baptism of the Tao of Dragons. That's right, 8th prince. The others can, but not this kid. The third prince also stepped out to stop him. The other princes were silent at the side. They did not participate in the battle. Firstly, they did not dare to offend the 8th prince. Secondly, they did not dare to offend the first prince. Therefore, it was better for them to watch the battle between the two from the side. Not allowed? Why not? The 8th prince also snorted coldly. He had already guessed that these people would stop him. Now it seemed that he was right. He was the suspect of killing the Golden Lion King. Do you think he is qualified to enter? The third prince sneered. The 8th prince said in a deep voice. So what if he is a suspect? Is there a rule in the Tai dynasty that says that suspects are not allowed to receive the baptism of the Tao of Dragons? You are twisting words and forcing logic. The third prince snorted coldly. The eighth prince was also angry. Third prince, watch your attitude. I am now the future crown prince. Hearing this, the third prince was so angry that his face darkened. However, he did not dare to openly provoke him anymore. After all, his opponent's status was different now. He was no longer on the same level as him. Instead, he was above him. The third prince snorted coldly, waved his sleeve and retreated. The first prince stepped out and sneered. What? You think you can show off after winning the second round? Don't forget that you are only the future crown prince, not the real crown prince. What's there to be arrogant about? In the end, it's not certain whether you can become the crown prince or not. Hearing this, the surrounding kings were shocked. The princes also gasped. What did their boss mean? Could it be that he still had a chance to turn the tables? Chapter 2194. Hearing this, the surrounding kings were shocked. The princes also gasped. What did their boss mean? Could it be that he still had a chance to turn the tables? Everyone was dumbfounded and could not believe it. Logically speaking, the first prince had lost and had no chance of becoming the crown prince. However, the first prince's tone was very arrogant, and he even dared to provoke the eighth prince. And what exactly was the trick behind all of this? They did not know. However, the eighth prince vaguely guessed it. His face was gloomy. Boss, I advise you not to play tricks behind our backs. You have no chance of becoming the crown prince. So you better be a good prince. Otherwise, when the time comes for the conferment, you won't even be a prince. The eighth prince's voice had a hint of coldness. After hearing this, the other princes felt their scalps tingle. Even the third prince's eyelids twitched. The eighth prince's words were laced with menace. It seemed that the eighth prince was really angry. The other princes were also silent. They decided that they would not stand out and participate in the battle for the position of crown prince. Otherwise, they would not even know how they died. The first prince flew into a rage, threatening him. How dare the other party threaten him? He was about to go crazy with anger. Previously, when there was no crown prince, he had always been the boss and was above everyone else. Moreover, he was the son of the empress, so his status was higher than the other princes. Usually, no one dared to go against him. But now the eighth prince, who had always been under his feet, dared to openly threaten him. He could not tolerate it. He was about to go crazy with anger. However, the kings on the side quickly reminded the first prince not to do anything. First prince, there will be plenty of time in the future. Let's think about it at length. Once the news from the secondary space comes back, we can contact the war tribe and take action. Humph. Let him be arrogant for 2 more days. I'll see how he dies then. The first prince snorted coldly. On the other side, the eighth prince withdrew his gaze and looked behind him. Brother Lin, please. Okay. Lin Xian nodded and took the lead to walk forward. Daoist Long, Duan Qingqing and the others followed behind him. Apart from them, the first prince, the third prince and all the other princes as well as the king realm experts behind them, all walked forward and prepared to be baptized by the Tao of Dragon Aura. Lin Xian walked at the very front and came to the centermost area before sitting down with his legs crossed. The others had been sitting beside him, facing him from the inside out. The closer one got to the center, the denser and denser the Tao of Dragon Aura. The closer one got to the edge, the scarcer the aura of the Tao of Dragon became. These positions were determined based on battle merits and contributions. After the sequence was arranged, a few elders from the royal family walked out and quickly activated the array. The ground below trembled as dragon roars rang out. It was as if 10,000 dragons were roaring. Lin Xian's heart also trembled. He could feel a surge of energy surging up from the ground. It was as if a true dragon was rapidly awakening. What a powerful force. Lin Xian was shocked and overjoyed at the same time. This force was enough for him to make a breakthrough. Without any hesitation, he used the art of longevity as if he had gone mad and quickly absorbed it. The others were also overjoyed and absorbed the power of the Tao of Dragon Aura. Dragon-shaped phantoms appeared on these people's bodies and quickly coiled around them. The dragon-shaped phantoms on Lin Xian's body were the most powerful. They were like giant dragons coiling around his body. The other princes watched and waited at the side. This lasted for a day and a night. After a day and a night, the Tao of Dragon Aura disappeared. Everyone opened their eyes and were overjoyed. Some even broke through directly. Moreover, there were many of them. Waves of powerful energy tore through the void and rushed into the clouds. These people were all overjoyed. At this moment, whether it was the veteran powerhouses or the young geniuses, they all exclaimed. Lin Xian opened his eyes as well, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. However, the third prince in the distance sneered. What a piece of trash. After absorbing so much Tao of dragon aura, he still hasn't made a breakthrough. That's right. Although Lin Xian's aura was stronger than before, he hadn't made a breakthrough. This made many people surprised. The third prince sneered in disdain. In his opinion, Lin Xian's talent wasn't very good. He didn't know why he was so strong. Facing the puzzled gazes of these people, Lin Xian ignored them. He quickly got up and came to the eighth prince's side. Then he said, I'll go back first. The eighth prince was also puzzled. Why didn't Lin Xian make a breakthrough? Even Duan Qingqing and Lu Fei had reached the peak of 6-star King Realm. Lin Xian's aura was still at the late stage of 6-star King Realm. Could it be that he was hiding his cultivation? But that shouldn't be the case. There was no way to hide one's cultivation when breaking through. The eighth prince couldn't figure it out. However, Lin Xian had already left. He returned to his residence, opened the array and sealed the room. Then he entered the black earth. Help me look outside. I'm going to make a breakthrough. Lin Xian instructed and sat down cross-legged. He wasn't a piece of trash, and it wasn't that he hadn't made a breakthrough. Instead, he had suppressed it. Lin Xian didn't want to make a breakthrough in front of everyone because the dragon aura he had absorbed this time was too strong. If it weren't for the mysterious longevity art, he wouldn't have been able to suppress it at all. Therefore, when he released his power, a powerful aura swept out. Fortunately, the black earth was extremely strong. Even an invincible almighty couldn't break it. Therefore, although Lin Xian's breakthrough was terrifying, it couldn't affect the black earth. Half a day later, an extremely terrifying aura surged from Lin Xian's body. He opened his eyes, and his gaze instantly pierced through the void. At the side, the dark red divine dragon also exclaimed, Kid, you've broken through and become an almighty. That's right. Lin Xian had broken through from the late stage of 6-star King Realm to 7-star King Realm. This definitely surpassed the breakthrough of everyone outside. If news of this spread out, it would definitely shock the group of people outside to death. 7-star King Realm, which was the almighty realm. Lin Xian had finally stepped into this realm. Not only had his cultivation broken through, but his strength had also increased exponentially. In the past, when he was a 6-star king, he already had the combat strength of a peak almighty. Now that he had broken through to the almighty realm, his combat strength had definitely reached the level of a peerless almighty. Ordinary almighties wouldn't be able to withstand a single move from him. Even peak almighties weren't his match. Only peerless almighties could contend with him now. Great, with a breakthrough in strength, it should be easier to deal with the war race in the future. Lin Xian also heaved a sigh of relief. His current combat strength was still at the level of a peerless almighty. Even if he faced the war race, he wouldn't be afraid. Chapter 2195. His current combat strength was still at the level of a peerless mighty figure. Even if he faced the war race, he wouldn't be afraid. Moreover, he still had a trump card, and that was the Heaven Stage Treasure Sword. During this period of time, Lin Xian had been asking the dark red divine dragon to study a set of array formations. That was to seal the power of the Heaven Stage Treasure Sword, as long as it was sharp. Under normal circumstances, using the Heaven Stage Treasure Sword would take away half of Lin Xian's energy. Even if he broke through now, he probably wouldn't be able to use it too many times. However, if the power of the Heaven Stage Ancient Sword was sealed, it would no longer absorb so much energy. However, the material and sharpness of the Heaven Stage Treasure Sword would be preserved. It would definitely be a divine weapon. It was most suitable for Lin Xian to use now. The dark red divine dragon thought for a few days and finally came up with a formation, so he sealed the Heaven Stage Ancient Sword again. This process lasted for another day. Alright kid, you can use it now. Its sharpness definitely surpasses that of an Earth Stage treasure. Moreover, you don't need to consume too much energy now. Of course, its power can't be compared to a true Heaven Stage Treasure Sword, but it can definitely crush an Earth Stage treasure. Also, if it really doesn't work, you can unlock the seal when you're in danger and unleash the power of the Heaven Stage Treasure Sword. However, you can use it as a trump card. This is great. Lin Xian was overjoyed. He had another trump card. To be honest, although the war race was powerful, Lin Xian wasn't afraid. After all, he had many cards in his hand. As long as he wasn't surrounded by many peerless experts, he could deal with them. In the next moment, Lin Xian took out a few medium-grade Earth Stage treasures and threw them into the air. Then he waved the Heaven Stage ancient sword. Buzz. Crack. With a swing of the sword, those medium-grade Earth Stage treasures were directly cut in half. So sharp. Lin Xian was shocked. He took out another high-grade Earth Stage treasure and found that it was also cut in half. Only a peak Earth Stage treasure could contend against it. However, after many attacks, cracks appeared on it. Great, with this divine weapon, Lin Xian's combat strength had increased again. After absorbing the Tao of Dragon Aura and becoming a mighty figure, Lin Xian decided to leave. But the only pity was that he hadn't investigated much about the nest of 10,000 dragons. At the very least, he knew that the nest of 10,000 dragons wasn't in the Tai dynasty. However, he had to leave the palace first. Once he was outside, he would think of a way. Lin Xian left as soon as he said so. He did not intend to delay. He exited the Black Earth and decided to bid farewell to the 8th prince. However, just as Lin Xian was halfway there, a low and melodious bell rang out from the imperial palace. Like muffled thunder, it spread throughout the entire imperial palace. Dong. Dong dong. At this moment, all the powerful cultivators in the palace opened their eyes. In particular, the expressions of the royal family elders changed. Oh no, something big has happened. Hurry to the Grand Imperial Hall. The loud sound of the bell shocked everyone in the imperial palace. Many figures soared into the sky and turned into rainbows, flying towards the Grand Imperial Hall. At this moment, it was not only the elders of the imperial family. Even the princes and the almighty kings beside them were rushing over. At the same time, they were discussing animatedly. What would happen at this time? Needless to say, it must be news from the secondary space. Do you mean news about the Golden Lion King? It must be. Moreover, it wasn't good news. Otherwise, it wouldn't have activated the Celestial Emperor Bell, which was only activated during major events. Could it be that something had happened to the Golden Lion King? Thinking of this, everyone's scalps went numb. Let's go and take a look. While discussing this, they sped up. Lin Xian also frowned. He could naturally guess that this matter should have something to do with the Golden Lion King. However, it was too much of a coincidence. Just as he was about to leave, the news came back. Oh, isn't this Prodigy Lin? Why is he still standing here? A sneer came from behind. Lin Xian frowned and turned around, only to find that it was the 3rd prince flying over with his men. Prodigy Lin, the news of the Golden Lion King has come back. Don't you want to hear it? Lin Xian snorted coldly. A trace of coldness appeared in his eyes. The 3rd prince sneered. I advise you to listen obediently. However, don't think about escaping. The entire imperial city is under martial law now. Even peerless almighties can't escape, let alone you. Ah. Speaking of this, the 3rd prince laughed wildly. A trace of malevolence appeared in his eyes. Then he waved his hand and left quickly with his men. Looking at the 3rd prince's back, Lin Xian's face was gloomy and his eyes flickered. However, the other party also warned him that he must not go to the Grand Imperial Hall. Thinking about it, with the divine abilities of the royal family elders, they should be able to determine that the Golden Lion King was killed. If he went there now, he would be walking into a trap. In the Grand Imperial Hall, there were no less than 10 peerless almighties or even more. If the sage came, then he and Lin Xian would have no chance of escaping. Therefore, Lin Xian decided to leave the imperial palace immediately. He originally wanted to say goodbye to the 8th prince, but now it seemed that there was no chance. Whoosh. In the next moment, Lin Xian's figure flickered and flew into the distance. At the same time, he secretly sent a voice transmission to the dark red divine dragon, telling it to be ready at all times. There must be a powerful array formation in the imperial palace for defense. When the time came, he would have to break the array formation. Just as Lin Xian was about to leave the imperial palace, on the other side, the Grand Imperial Hall was already packed with people. The imperial elders, almighties, peerless geniuses, and the princes were all gathered in the hall. The empress and the sage were also there. In front of the hall stood 3 elders with gloomy and solemn expressions. They were the 3 people who went to the secondary space to look for the Golden Lion King. At this moment they had returned and brought back news. However, it wasn't good news. Looking at their expressions, everyone could guess a thing or two. However, they still couldn't be sure. At this moment, an imperial elder asked, "What's the situation?" "Yes, we're all here. Elder, please tell us." A burly middle-aged man wearing battle armor said in a clear voice. He was really the 1st prince's uncle. The three elders looked around, then turned around and looked forward. Your Majesty, the matter has been investigated. Speak. The sage nodded and said in a deep voice. The three elders looked at each other, and the oldest of them walked out and said in a deep voice, We've arrived at the place where the Golden Lion King and Lin Xian had their final battle. We didn't find a corpse there. No corpse. Hearing this, many people heaved a sigh of relief. On the other hand, the first prince frowned. What's going on? Could it be that the Golden Lion King isn't dead? This was completely different from what they had expected. Chapter 2196. However, the elder in front said again. Although the corpse was not found, according to the blood at the scene and the remnant aura, the Golden Lion King should have been killed. In fact, even their corpses were gone. What? The Golden Lion King was killed. Not even his bones were left. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. This news was like a bolt from the blue, making them dizzy. Those powerful experts swallowed their saliva. The surrounding princes were also shocked. Killed. He was really killed. The third prince was also shocked. However, a sinister smile appeared on his face soon after. That's great. That brat is definitely dead. He killed the Golden Lion King. The war tribe will definitely not let him go. On the first prince's side, a pleased smile appeared on his face. This was great. Things went according to plan. The Golden Lion King was killed. They only needed to capture Lin Xian. That would be enough. At that time, they would sow discord and make the war tribe and the eighth prince become enemies. After using the war tribe to kill the eighth prince, he would become the crown prince. The eighth prince's face was cold and his eyes were serious. He had known about this news for a long time. However, he did not expect the whole world to know about it so quickly. Behind him, Daoist Long, the lord of the underworld, Duan Qingqing and other powerful experts sucked in a breath of cold air. They were extremely shocked. It couldn't be Lin Xian really killed the Golden Lion King? This guy was too crazy. Discussions broke out one after another. However, at this moment the first prince stood out. He pointed to the right side of the hall and shouted coldly. Eighth prince, where is Lin Xian? Hand him over. Hand him over, capture him and send him to the war tribe. He was truly audacious and didn't know what death was. He even dared to kill a genius of the war tribe. He must be tired of living. Cold shouts could be heard. The people on the first prince's side were aggressive and wanted to force the eighth prince. In fact, it was not only the first prince. At this moment, everyone in the Grand Imperial Hall looked at the eighth prince. It wasn't just the elders of the royal family. Even the empress and the emperor were looking over. Daoist Long, Duan Qingqing and the others looked anxious. Were they really going to hand over Lin Xian? If that happened, Lin Xian would definitely die. The eighth prince was also bewildered. He did not know whether Lin Xian had left or not. However, he was now praying that they wouldn't come to the Grand Imperial Hall. If they came, they would die without a doubt. If he hadn't come, the situation might have taken a turn for the better. Seeing that the eighth prince was silent, the first prince snorted again. Eighth prince, stop struggling. Hurry up and hand over Lin Xian. What, could it be that you want to protect this murderer? Yes, hand over Lin Xian. Eighth prince, don't hesitate. This person is the war clan's mortal enemy. If we shield him, it might cause the war clan to be dissatisfied. Sounds of discussion could be heard. The eighth prince coldly snorted, I did not see Lin Xian. Didn't see it? How is that possible? That Lin Xian is your man. The first prince sneered. Boss, you should be clear. Now that the battle for the position of crown prince is over, it is up to Lin Xian to decide whether to stay or leave. I don't know. Of course it's normal. The eighth prince also snorted. However, at this time the third prince stood out and sneered. Can't be, I saw that kid on the way here. However, that kid's expression was not very good. Perhaps he knew that the matter of him killing the Golden Lion King was exposed. Right now, he might be secretly trying to escape somewhere. What? Lin Xian wanted to escape. Hearing this, everyone was stirred up again. They searched the entire Grand Imperial Hall and found that there was no sign of Lin Xian. However, the third prince smiled again. Don't worry, the palace is already under martial law. Even supreme experts can't escape, let alone that kid. The palace is already under martial law. Those experts were shocked. The royal elders were also silent. The palace was indeed under martial law. It was impossible for that kid to escape. Boom. Just as the third prince finished speaking, an earth-shattering explosion came from afar. It was as if 100,000 golden lightning bolts had descended. Then the entire palace shook violently. Even the Grand Imperial Hall was shaking as if there was an earthquake. What's going on? Someone is attacking the palace. Everyone's expression changed. The royal elders and the princes were also shocked. They had never seen such a thing in their lives. This is the palace. Who dares to behave atrociously here? The emperor's face darkened. He shouted coldly and a majestic force surged out. Immediately, the Grand Imperial Hall was stabilized. Not only that, but there were also peerless experts suppressing the entire palace, preventing it from trembling. However, the explosions outside were still going on. What's going on? Everyone was shocked. The first prince and the others rushed out of the Grand Imperial Hall and looked into the distance. The remaining people also followed him out one after another. In the distance, several figures flew over and landed quickly. They knelt on one knee and cupped their fists. The defensive array formation had been destroyed, and that brat Lin Xian had escaped. What? Lin Xian escaped? Everyone was stunned. Although the guard's voice wasn't loud, it was like a clap of thunder that exploded in their minds. Everyone was stunned, especially the third prince and the first prince. They were dumbfounded. They had previously said that even supreme experts could not escape. That kid had no chance of escaping. But now he had escaped in the blink of an eye. This was a slap to their faces in public. Moreover, they were so angry that they vomited blood. Damn it, how is this possible? How is this possible? How could that kid escape? The third prince was about to go crazy. This was completely beyond his understanding. Could it be that the other party was a supreme expert? Or did someone secretly help him? The eighth prince was also shocked. Although he also hoped that Lin Xian would leave quickly. He was also shocked when he heard the news. It would appear that Lin Xian had not left stealthily. Instead, he had forcibly broken through the spirit formation's defenses before leaving. That was the array formation of the Imperial Palace. Even supreme experts could not break it. How did he do it? Damn it, chase him. Chase him. We must catch that kid. The first prince was so angry that he stomped his feet. Immediately, many powerhouses soared into the sky. The empress also narrowed her eyes and secretly signaled to the others. A few of the royal elders who supported the first prince stepped forward. Their expressions were cold as they quickly flew into the sky. They formed hand seals with their palms, and huge palms that covered the sky appeared in the sky. They covered a radius of tens of thousands of miles and quickly enveloped the area. The supreme experts had attacked and there were 3 of them. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. It seemed that they were really going to make a move. However, in the next moment they were stunned. That was because the expressions of the 3 supreme experts changed, and they retracted their palms. In the sky, the huge palms that covered tens of thousands of miles collapsed into pieces. They were shattered. How was that possible? These people were all crazy. That was a peerless almighty figure. 3 supreme experts had attacked at the same time. Chapter 2197. Those people were crazy. Those were supreme mighty figures. Moreover, 3 supreme mighty figures had attacked at the same time. How could Lin Xian resist them? However, the result was beyond their expectations. The 3 sky-covering hands were instantly torn into pieces. What kind of power could cause such a thing? How did that kid do it? Wasn't he just a 6-star king? Impossible. The empress also exclaimed in shock, and her expression became extremely ugly. At the side, the emperor's gaze was gloomy. He was also angry. However, he did not make a move. He had no choice. He was the ruler of a country, an invincible king. How could he attack a 6-star king? Even if he could capture the other party, he would become a laughingstock if word got out. The subordinates naturally knew that. Therefore, at that moment, the empress' younger brother, General Xianying, stepped forward. He quickly said, "Your Majesty, let me lead the troops to capture this thief." "All right." The emperor nodded slightly. General Xianying immediately turned around and soared into the sky. At the same time, more than 10 figures quickly soared into the sky from the palace in the distance. They left the palace and charged into the distance. The others quickly followed. To be honest, they also wanted to see what kind of means Lin Xian had used to cause such a terrifying attack. When they left the palace, they were stunned. There was a huge hole in the incomparably profound array in front of them. It had been blasted into pieces. Could it be that this was caused by that brat Lin Xian? That was too terrifying. How did he do it? Everyone gasped. The third prince and the others quickly rushed over. They wanted to see how Lin Xian was doing. Actually, this was what had happened. Originally, Lin Xian wanted to break the array. However, after thinking about it, he reckoned that after the news was exposed, the people of the royal family would definitely go crazy and hunt him down. Therefore, he decided to use the Black Earth to break the array by force. Lin Xian went to the edge of the imperial palace and summoned the Black Earth. Then he used all the natural treasures he had as well as those divine crystals to launch the Black Earth's powerful attack. An earth-shattering beam of light blasted onto the mysterious formation, causing an earth-shattering explosion. The imperial palace's array was very strong. Even a peerless almighty couldn't open it. However, the might of the Black Earth was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Lin Xian didn't hesitate to use the natural treasures and divine crystals in his possession. That was why the resulting attacks were extremely terrifying, already surpassing those of exceptional powerhouses. It directly blasted open the array formation in front of them. This scene caused an uproar in the entire imperial palace. Even the surrounding imperial palace warriors and guards were all stunned. They wanted to block it, but the shockwaves from the explosion sent them flying. Lin Xian entered the Black Earth, passed through the shattered formation and flew into the distance. However, this was the imperial palace after all. Even though those guards were sent flying, those peerless almighties hidden within the imperial palace soared into the air and chased after them rapidly. 5 to 6 almighties instantly flew out and crazily attacked the Black Earth. However, the result was beyond their expectations. Because their attacks had no effect at all. There wasn't even a crack. The Black Earth was incomparably hard and shook off all the attacks. How was that possible? What kind of treasure was that? How could it be so terrifying? The peerless almighties behind them were stunned. Inside the Black Earth, Lin Xian snorted coldly and ignored them. He once again injected a large amount of energy and used many divine crystals as energy. On the surface of the Black Earth, mysterious runes bloomed one after another. It tore through the void and then disappeared. Damn it. Seeing this scene, 5 to 6 peerless almighties roared crazily. They wanted to stop him, but they couldn't do so at all. Behind them, General Xian Ying led a group of people and happened to see the other party tear through the void and disappear. He stabbed out with his spear. The huge spear light turned into a golden dragon and rushed out. However, it still didn't stop the other party. Damn it. General Xian Ying roared crazily. He didn't expect the other party to escape so easily. This made him extremely angry. Behind him, those people who rushed over were also completely stunned. Lin Xian escaped from the imperial palace so easily? Why did it feel like a dream? So many peerless almighties couldn't stop him. What's going on? The crown prince walked out and asked coldly. His eyes were filled with monstrous anger. That kid has an incomparably mysterious spirit ship. Its attack power is very strong and its defense is very strong. If he hides inside, we can't break it at all. Damn it, it's actually like this. The others also had gloomy expressions when they heard this. Uncle, what should we do? The crown prince looked at General Xian Ying. General Xian Ying frowned. I've never heard of such a treasure before. It must be of a very high grade. Moreover, to activate a spirit ship of this grade, it requires a lot of energy. I don't believe that kid can keep using it. I'll go back now and ask the emperor for an order to arrest him. If he dares to kill the Golden Lion King, it's equivalent to declaring war on the war race. There will be no place for him in the Tai dynasty. Yes, that's right. Hearing this, the crown prince's eyes also bloomed with a vicious light. Although that brat had escaped now, there would be a day when he would be caught. As long as he is in the territory of our dynasty, he will definitely not be able to escape. In the next moment, the crown prince, a few peerless almighties, and General Xian Ying hurriedly returned to the Grand Imperial Hall to ask the emperor for an imperial edict. The others were in an uproar. They were all discussing Lin Xian and what happened before. On the other hand, the 8th prince's face was gloomy. Although Lin Xian was fine now, the 8th prince knew that it didn't mean that the matter was over. In fact, it was just the beginning. As expected, after returning, the emperor issued an imperial edict that Lin Xian was wanted in the entire country. The empress even brought out a phoenix edict to say that the entire world would reward him. Not only that, she also offered a generous reward. Anyone who captured Lin Xian would be conferred the title of king of a different surname. When the phoenix edict came out, the world was shocked. A king of a different surname was equivalent to a king of the Tai dynasty. The temptation was too great. That was because there were now 27 kings in the Tai dynasty. Among them, there were only 3 kings with different surnames. Moreover, 3 of them were kings with different surnames 2,000 years ago. In the past 1,000 years, no one had been conferred the title of king of a different surname. Those who were conferred the title of king of a different surname would receive monstrous power, large tracts of land, endless natural treasures, and endless cultivation resources. It could be said that it was a meteoric rise. Therefore, when the imperial edict came out, all the almighties in the Tai dynasty were excited. They searched everywhere crazily trying to capture Lin Xian. Not only that, the empress and the crown prince had also gathered a group of powerhouses to search for him. They also contacted the kings stationed in various places and prepared to join forces. Chapter 2198. Relying on his newly promoted status as the crown prince, he had gathered many elders and princes. However, he was still a crown prince to be. Compared to the first prince and the empress, he was still a far cry from them. Therefore, he had only gathered a small number of princes and elders. Even so, it was enough to alleviate the danger that Lin Xian was in. As for the other princes, they were divided into two groups. Some supported the eighth prince and some supported the first prince. Of course, there were also those who chose to remain neutral. After all, it was not good to offend either of them. The third prince stood firmly on the first prince's side. After all, he hated Lin Xian to the core. Of course, he hoped that Lin Xian would be killed. Moreover, he knew that Lin Xian would definitely die. Because the first prince had not only gathered a large number of experts, but also princes. The empress had also sent someone to deliver a message to the war tribe. When the people of the war race learned of the Golden Lion King's death, they would definitely explode with rage. As long as the war tribe was angry, not to mention the kid, even the peerless powerhouses would be killed. On the other side, Lin Xian boarded the Black Earth and left the palace completely. After he confirmed that it was safe, he immediately left the Black Earth and put it away. After all, the Black Earth's level was too high. Activating it once consumed too much energy. Even he did not dare to use it for a long time. It was better to use it as a life-saving measure. He still used an ordinary spirit boat to fly. "Kid, what should we do now?" the dark red dragon asked. Lin Xian thought for a while and decided to leave the Tai dynasty first. After all, the commotion this time was too big. Lin Xian decided to find a city and buy a map. He asked for the location. He then made a plan to leave. After flying for a long time, he was surrounded by barren mountains. He did not know where to fly to leave the Tai dynasty. After confirming a direction, Lin Xian flew quickly. Half a day later, a city wall appeared in his field of vision in the distance. It was a huge city. It was incomparably bright. Looking from below, it looked like a giant beast entrenched on the ground. He could not see the end of it. "Let's go down and take a look." When Lin Xian saw the giant city, his figure flickered and he descended. When they got closer, they realized that this huge city was really too majestic. The roads inside were like huge dragons, and the tall city towers were like immortal palaces. The atmosphere was majestic. The city walls below were all protected by formations. Mysterious runes flickered on the walls, emitting a unique aura. It was impossible to land directly inside the city walls. Therefore, Lin Xian landed outside the city walls. In front of the city gate there were groups of guards. There were more than 30 people in total. They held long spears in their hands and wore battle armor that flickered with a cold metallic luster. They guarded the two sides of the city gate. At the entrance, there was an endless stream of people coming in and out. These people were not ordinary people. They were all martial artists. Many of them even had powerful auras. It was obvious that they were experts. Lin Xian landed below. When he was flying, he had already changed his appearance. At this moment, he changed his appearance in order to avoid being noticed by others. Sure enough, after he came down, many people looked in his direction. But soon it moved away. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian was slightly relieved. It seemed that these people did not notice him. Moreover, he did not know if the Supreme First Dynasty had issued a warrant for him. But thinking about it, they would definitely not let him go. Therefore, he had better be careful. In the next moment, Lin Xian withdrew his thoughts and walked forward. The moment he entered the city, one of the middle-aged guards with a full beard suddenly felt his heart tremble. There was a look of shock in his eyes. He opened his mouth and spat out a green iron token. The iron token on the token shone brightly and trembled rapidly. Seeing this scene, the middle-aged man was extremely shocked and his pupils suddenly dilated. He hurriedly said, Go and inform the governor that the person we are looking for is here." Whoosh whoosh. In front of him, the two guards turned into two streaks of lightning, rushed into the city and disappeared. Lin Xian entered the city and walked on the wide street. Looking at the passers-by and martial artists on both sides, his eyes flickered. He was looking for a shop to buy a map to identify the direction. But in a corner, an old man in patched clothes with a broken bowl in front of him suddenly opened his eyes. His hair was messy and his face was ashen, but at this moment his eyes were extremely sharp. There was a jade pendant on his body that was shining brightly. Runes flashed on it. "It's here," the old man whispered, his eyes shining with a sharp light. In the next moment her figure flickered and disappeared. At the same time, a middle-aged man in white was sitting cross-legged on the platform of a high-speed railway. He was waving a feather fan, and there was a golden bell in front of him. At this moment the golden bell shone brightly and made a tinkling sound. "It's here." The middle-aged man in white put down the fan in his hand and looked at the golden bell in front of him. His eyes flickered. In the next moment, he waved his hand and a palm-sized rune appeared in his hand. He bit his finger and wrote a few lines of words on it with his blood. At the same time, a formation was formed in front of him and it was shining brightly. The middle-aged man in white placed the rune on top of the formation. As the light flickered, the rune disappeared. One after another, orders were quickly passed down in the dark. Obviously, because of Lin Xian's arrival, the entire city was in turmoil. Lin Xian did not know about these things. At this moment he came to a hall called the Thousand Treasure Tower, bought a map and asked about some geographical matters. Lin Xian learned that this city was called Flame City. The place he was in was considered the center of the Tai dynasty. It would take a long time to leave the territory of the Tai dynasty. It seemed that he had to use a teleportation formation. Lin Xian asked where the super teleportation formation was. In the end he learned that only the 12 main cities had super teleportation formations. Although Flame City was huge, it was not one of the 12. Of course, there were also super teleportation formations in the mansions of the princes. However, those places were more dangerous, so Lin Xian would not go there. The 12 main cities. Lin Xian nodded in understanding. It seemed that he had to find a way to go to the 12 main cities and use the super teleportation formation to leave the Tai dynasty. Although it was just a dynasty, its territory was frighteningly huge. It would take Lin Xian a few years to fly away. Thinking of this, Lin Xian walked out. As soon as he stepped out of the Thousand Treasure Tower, he was surrounded by a group of guards. There were about 20 of them and they all looked cold. They held spears in their hands and surrounded Lin Xian tightly. Seeing this, Lin Xian frowned. Could it be that he had been exposed? In front, a young man in green armor stood out, looked at Lin Xian and nodded. Yes, it was him. Take him away. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.